Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this council meeting of Monday, April 26th. I'll call this meeting to order, and before we go into a moment of silence, I will call on Councillor Guido.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. It is with deep sadness that I announce the passing of our dear friend Dave Sparling. For those of you who knew Dave, knew that any conversation with him left you with a smile and a chuckle, but always glad that you had it. I value and cherish the years I served with him on the Prince Albert Hall Board. For over 35 years, Dave volunteered on the Prince Albert Hall Board, overseeing so many projects, euchre tournaments, and events. His contributions to the Hall and the community are endless. On behalf of council, staff, and the Township of Skugog, I would like to offer our deepest condolences to his wife, Pat, 2 children, Rob and Jay, and grandchildren, and to all of his many friends and family. Dave, you will be deeply missed.
Thank you, Councillor Guido. I've known Dave a long time myself as a friend, and when I was on the Prince Albert Hall Board, I knew him also through theatre. A great guy, lots of fun, energetic, and a real community advocate. Further, for this moment of silence, Township of Skugog proclaims April 28th as National Day of Mourning. We remember the thousands of workers who have been killed, injured, or suffered illnesses as a result of work-related incidents. Flags will be lowered at the municipal office on April the 28th in memory of the workers and their families. Every worker has the right to return home safe and sound at the end of each workday. We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you. Skugog is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. Today, we acknowledge that we are gathering on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of Skugog Island First Nation. We recognize and deeply appreciate the historic Indigenous connection to this land and recognize the contributions First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples have made both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, our province and country as a whole. We're grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. I will now call on our clerk to give the processes for tonight's meeting. Ms. Jameson.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, for your information, Sandra Fry will be recording the minutes in eScribe this evening and conducting the votes. I will now conduct a roll call to ascertain which members of council are present. Mayor Drew is present. Councillor Watton, are you present?
I'm present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall, are you present?
Yes, I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Guido, are you present?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross, are you present?
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kiesenbrink, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I can confirm that we have quorum for this meeting. I will now list the staff who are present in alphabetical order. Adam DeBecke, Amy Coughlin, Carol Coleman, our CAO Ken Nix, Kevin Heritage, Laura Barta, Laura Garnacio, Lori Bowers, Chief Mark Burney, Robert Frasca, Sandra Fry. Is there any member of staff present whom I did not mention? Also in attendance this evening are a number of delegations who will be introduced shortly. As in previous electronic meetings, I will now review the rules of the meeting. Please mute your microphone while not talking. This will avoid any background noise that may occur where you are and will avoid any echo of the audio. Also, please ensure you are in a quiet place to limit background noise when you speak. Please use headphones as this will help improve the audio quality. If you would like to speak, please use the hand raise function in the meeting. The mayor will then call upon you when it is your turn. For members of council, if you leave your computer, please let the mayor know so that quorum can continue to be met. When moving or seconding a motion, please use the hand raise function in the meeting, and the mayor will announce who the mover and seconder are. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the Township's YouTube channel. We will be using electronic voting process during tonight's meeting. At the appropriate time, Sandra will announce that the voting is open and council members will be asked to make a selection. Once everyone has voted, Sandra will announce that the vote is closed. If for any reason a council member is unable to vote, the mayor will ask if anyone is against, and we ask that you please say your name and that you are against the motion. If the electronic voting system stops working for any reason, we will revert back to the mayor asking each member, oh, I apologize. If I just repeated what we said, I apologize. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my opening statement.
Thank you, Ms. Jameson.
Sorry about that.
Tonight is Sandra Fry's last meeting as our recording secretary, and I want to thank Sandra for her years in this department, in the clerk's department, and she's done an excellent job for us. She's so pleasant to work with, and she handles these meetings well, and it certainly is a challenge. And we welcome Laura Granaccio. I hope I pronounced that correctly. She will be taking over Sandra's position. She's here helping out tonight and observing how these things are run. And we welcome you, and Laura, and wish you all the best. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in the nature thereof? Understand, Councillor Guido, you have a pecuniary interest?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a pecuniary interest on 10.3.2 in the correspondence section that Councillor Kiesebrink is bringing forward. My husband has a salon who's currently closed due to COVID, and while I really appreciate the support that Councillor Kiesebrink is giving them, I am declaring my pecuniary interest.
Thank you very much. Are there any other disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we will move on. Any announcements from council? Councillor Kiesebrink? Oh, sorry, missed you, Councillor Brown. Go ahead, Councillor Kiesebrink.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to congratulate the Ken Reid Conservation for receiving the Kawartha Lakes Diamond Reader's Choice Award for the best recreational facility. They're open year-round for hiking, biking, and snowshoeing, canoeing, kayaking, and facilities that can be rented. February 22nd, an unfortunate incident occurred at Howler's Corners Dog Park at Ken Reid. There was an altercation and police charged the offender. At our April 22nd board meeting, directors were updated that Kawartha Conservation is continuing to reassure the public. They've put in place special care, including an adjusted schedule, so staff will be present at the park on weekends during times of high use by the public. And as an added precaution, 2 cameras are now installed within Howler's Corners Dog Park at Ken Reid. They've also launched the Talking Forest, a free app to download. It's available on Google Play Store, and it's coming soon to Apple App Store as well. You can bring your family, take a walk through the woods, and hear the trees in their own voices tell you their story.
That's pretty exciting about the Talking Trees project. I'm looking forward to doing that myself. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a reminder to everybody to continue to shop local. I think we paid a lot of attention to it in the first wave, and I don't know how much we paid in the second wave, and here we are in wave number 3, but the businesses are really hurting. It's a very difficult time. I think it's a difficult time from a mental fatigue standpoint for all of us, and certainly for business owners in the Port Perry area and Skugog. But if we can just sort of keep that in mind in the back there someplace, that we did so well early shopping locally, and we need to continue to do that because these people are the lifeblood of the town. Thank you.
You're absolutely right, Councillor Brown, and thank you for bringing that forward. These business owners are our friends, our neighbors, our family, and they support us, and we need to support them now. So treat yourself to anything, and certainly treat yourself to a meal, a takeout meal now and again. Thank you for bringing that forward. Any other members of council have an announcement? Seeing none, I'll call on Chief Burney from staff.
Thank you, Mayor Drew. I have two announcements. The first one I'd like to speak to is regarding COVID-19. The active case count in the Township of Skugog presently sits at 39 cases. Household contact and community contact together continue to represent the largest exposure source in the township, presently 67%. However, there have been signs that COVID-19 and the case curve is flattening in the township. This is good news. This means that the measures we have been taking and the sacrifices we have been making are working and must continue. Some township amenities remain open for exercise purposes only. Parks and trails are open for walkthrough. Playgrounds and the dog park remain open and used. Please follow health guidelines, and as a reminder, playground equipment is not sanitized. Other amenities, including public picnic sites, public picnic tables, and the public boat launches, remain closed in compliance with provincial orders and in an effort to reduce community contact exposure cases. Mayor Drew, marinas, while close to the public at the moment, are permitted to repair docks and secure watercraft by marina operators. As a result, you may see activity at the Water Street boat launch as the Port Perry Marina operator prepares for opening after the stay-at-home order is lifted. Signage and barricades the township has installed are being removed at some key locations. Although they may not be popular, these are in place to help remind the public of provincial orders and support the efforts to help minimize the spread of COVID-19. We ask the public to please be respectful and refrain from tampering with the barricades and signage. Everyone has a role to play in helping get through this pandemic, and we are doing our best to manage the situation, and we ask that the township respect the efforts of the township that are in place and to help keep the residents safe. Please help all of us keep everyone safe. Next, Mayor Drew, I'd like to speak to the fire ban. For the month of April, the township has been under a fire ban. I'd like to express my appreciation to our residents and the farming community for their contributions and their cooperations in this respect. I am pleased to advise that the fire weather index has dropped significantly, improving the fire danger rating, thereby allowing the fire ban to be lifted as of May 1st. And that is good news, I'm sure, for many. And Mayor Drew, that ends my announcements. Thank you very much, and please stay safe.
Thank you very much, Chief. I'm glad that you had those COVID updates. I was saddened to hear that a 13-year-old passed away from COVID, and just recently, someone in their 20s passed away from COVID. I believe that was down in Oshawa, which tells us that young people are still vulnerable to this disease, and was very dismayed to hear this morning on the radio that there was a huge gathering of young people in Toronto, and that had to be broken up by police. A number of people were charged, and that will make it really, really difficult in Toronto to keep those numbers down. Director Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Drew. Also on May 1st, the half load restrictions will be removed, and that means that it will be construction season again. The Township of Skugog tendered its major road projects very early this year, and they're all will be get going as the half loads come off. The Major Street reconstruction began this week. There is a temporary water main in place now. That project is a full road reconstruction to an urban cross section with a new water main. We also will be beginning construction on Coriel Street in Seagrave, McLaughlin Road, and Devitts Road, and they're all being done under the same contract, and that contract is expected to start late next week. All of these projects will be completed by the fall of this year.
Thank you, Director Coleman. While it's maybe inconvenient as we travel through Skugog, this is really great news that there's some exciting road projects being done. Thank you. Director Bowers.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Thank you. Just a quick little update for you to let you know that the Community Services area has developed a social media campaign around kindness. So we all know very well that this pandemic has taken a toll, as we are very well aware, on the community, on individuals over the last year. And echo what Councillor Brown was saying, in the first and second wave, we certainly did see many displays early on of kindness and the community rallying together. And we want to continue to embrace that support. And so we are beginning with a social media campaign called Catch My Kindness. And it's a series of images that will show people smiling even when they're wearing the mask. So when you're smiling behind your mask, you're smiling with your eyes. And we do know that you're smiling. And we're just a little fun plug to ask folks to remember to be courteous to all those around you, especially those serving in the community through our local businesses, our restaurants, our volunteer organizations, our municipal staff, and essential workers. And we will be partnering with our local friends in the community that are active on social media to assist in pushing out those images and those messages of kindness and courtesy. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll all do our part to spread that good news. Thank you. Director Heritage.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. I've got some good news tonight for both the township and Port Perry. I'm pleased to announce that Geranium has won 3 awards of excellence as presented by the Durham Region Home Builders Association for its Courts of Canterbury development. These prestigious awards celebrate excellence in new homes, home renovations, innovative technology and construction, outstanding presentation, and marketing of projects within Durham Region. Now, Madam Mayor, the awards include, the first one was an excellence in production-built kitchen design, Courts of Canterbury, the Chesterman model. Now, the criteria that was used to evaluate this submission is the overall appeal, the innovative design, use of materials, creative use of space, and functionality. The second award is the Community of the Year, Courts of Canterbury. And the Community of the Year is bestowed upon the builder whose project combines the best overall products, site, advertising, promotion, on-site presentation, and architectural design. And the third and final award is Builder of the Year, Small Volume. And that's for builders that produce an annual unit volume of 60 units or less. And the criteria used for the Builder of the Year include advertising and marketing, product designs and appeal, community involvement, which there certainly was a lot of community involvement in this development, support of the home building industry, and sales success. I wish to congratulate Geranium on all these successes and awards. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Director Heritage. That's really exciting news, and it's positive for Port Perry and Skugog Township. I'm sure that good news will be widely spread throughout the province. So that really highlights Skugog Township. Councillor Watton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and that indeed is good news. And I just would like to propose that we send a letter of congratulations on behalf of our council and the township, just congratulating Geranium. You know, I think it's pretty awesome and it's well deserved and good news all around. So I think I would love to see us send a letter of congratulations. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, we will certainly do that. Thank you, Councillor Watton. No further announcements from staff. Okay, we'll move on to presentations, 9.1. And I'd like to welcome Oren Barfoot, Vice President Development, Southbridge Healthcare, and he will be speaking on the support of the proposed ministry zoning order. Mr. Barfoot, welcome. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, councillors, and staff. Again, my name is Oren Barfoot. I'm the VP of Development for Southbridge, and I bring greetings from Southbridge to you. We're an operator in good standing with the Ministry of Long-Term Care. We currently have 37 homes in 24 communities across the province. Port Perry project is going to be 224 beds, of which 149 will be actually new beds coming to the community. Many jobs will be a part of this project. We anticipate upwards to 250 new jobs to this project. The Ministry of Long-Term Care requires Southbridge to secure a site to be part of the next step for the approval process for the Ministry of Long-Term Care. The Ministry of Long-Term Care approval process is, I want to go through that as I speak now. The first step is to have a bed allotment or allocation, which has been completed for Port Perry. Next step is to enter into development agreement with the Ministry of Long-Term Care. And for that, we need to be able to identify a site that we have secured to build the new project. Following that, we need to have our concept approved, which we've already got that pretty much laid down. It's just that we need the site details to be able to forward that to the ministry. The next step would be a set of working drawings, which we're currently working on because we have the concept pretty well nailed down. Approval to then go to tender. We need that from the ministry. And then finally, we need their approval to start construction. As you can see, there's a number of steps that the ministry requires us to follow. We currently have 4 projects that we have already started that are on schedule and on budget. Those projects are located in Kempville, Cornwall, London, and Owen Sound. All of those projects are currently working towards completing the second floor, so they're well on their way. The next projects that are in the queue for Southbridge to do are located at Port Hope and Pickering. Those 2 projects, we actually have land, and we are waiting for the development agreement on those 2 sites or those 2 projects. And we expect that development agreement in the next couple of weeks. We submitted a form today that was requested to finalize the schedule that will be included in the development agreements from the ministry. The next projects that will be in queue for Southbridge is Alexandria, Port Perry, Thunder Bay, and Godrich. Alexandria is 96 beds, and we've secured a agreement to purchase and sale for land in Alexandria last week. The Port Perry project, which is 224 beds, and that's the reason why we're here tonight, is so that we can move forward with this MZO so that we can identify a lot and be able to secure a purchase and sale agreement with Rick Wanop in his subdivision. The Thunder Bay project is 160 beds, and we actually own a site there, and we're looking forward to a development agreement there soon. Godrich is another 160 bed site that we're in the middle of the final negotiations on a purchase and sale agreement in Godrich. As you can see, Southbridge has a lot of work ahead of us, and we want Port Perry to be one of the projects that we move forward with as quickly as possible. The Ministry of Long-Term Care has identified some urgency to get these new projects and these new long-term care beds secured and the projects completed. In summary, council, we're looking for council support of the MZO that will be tabled tonight. And we're looking forward so that we can begin to secure a purchase and sale agreement with Rick. So when we can go to the ministry and say, hey, we have secured a site for Port Perry. I know I haven't been given a whole lot of time, and I've downloaded a bunch of information fairly quickly here in sort of a bullet point format. And, you know, at this point in time, I'd like to thank council for their support in this motion to move forward with the MZO. And if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barfoot. Could I have a motion to receive, please? Councillor Kiesebrink, seconded by Councillor Brown. Questions or comments to the delegation? Councillor Kiesebrink?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps I could ask this question of Mr. Given, the planner.
Well, you can do that. I would suggest that you wait till Mr. Given has his presentation.
Okay,
Do you have any questions of Mr. Barfoot?
Perhaps Mr. Barfoot can answer this question then. Why is the MZO request for 1520, 1540, and 1580 Reach Street if the proposed address for the long-term care facility is 100 Reach Street?
That address of 100 Reach Street might be an error, and maybe Mr. Givens can further expand on that. We don't know exactly where the site will be best suited for the long-term care facility, and so maybe Mr. Given can expand on that in his presentation.
Okay, so further through you, Madam Mayor, with this, the property that's subject to this zoning order, it's not the entire property, it's just the portion M1, and it does avoid any EP or environmental protection portions on the property, is that correct?
Sorry, is that directed at me?
If you'd like, I can hold that question. I have another question for you.
Okay, I think Mr. Givens may be able to answer that better.
Okay, great. With respect to the elevation drawings that are in your presentation, it looks to be, I don't know, something like 8 stories tall, but we only see 2 floor layouts. What would the other floor layouts look like?
So if you look at the drawings for the floor layouts, the first floor will consist of the administration and the common service areas like the kitchen and the laundry, and maintenance and that sort of thing. The second floor layout will be identical for the remaining floors. And the reason for that is that's part and parcel to the way the ministry has expectations for us to separate what we call resident home areas, or RHAs. There's a maximum of 32 people allowed per RHA. And so on each floor, there's no more than 32 residents. The advantage that we have there is that should we have a infection control issue, we can isolate each floor so that there's no transmission between employees and or services between floors. So we can isolate each floor down to as low as 32 residents. And I believe that we can even split that up into half again so that we can split the 32 into 16.
Oh, I see. That makes more sense. I just assumed that was the floor that everyone would come to dine at, for example. So that's a good clarification. With respect to the 224 beds allotment from the ministry, will this facility replace Port Perry Villas?
So what will happen is that the residents that we have in Port Place Villa, for the long-term care residents, will move to the new facility, correct? And then at the once that happens, then we will repurpose the existing facility, and we don't know yet whether that would be a retirement home or assisted living or affordable housing or whatever, but that will be repurposed for some seniors services.
So further through you, Madam Mayor, so the new facility that you're proposing, it sounds like it's in keeping with some more stringent requirements from the ministry with respect to long-term care facility.
So the ministry has a pretty stringent guidelines for what we can and what we cannot build. Like I said earlier, we have 4 projects that we have in the ground that has been approved by the ministry that follows underneath the same current guidelines. No, sorry, they're not guidelines. It's a manual that design manual that we have to adhere to. But what we've done is we've taken it a step further in that we know that infection control and our residents' care and safety is of utmost importance. So we've taken a step further and gone to additional design features that will enhance the regulations and the manual that the ministry has set out before us. And I think that's one of the reasons why Southbridge has been fortunate to receive as many allocation of new beds as what we have.
I see. This question would perhaps be for our fire chief. Are we able to provide fire service for a facility of this elevation? It looks to be 8 stories tall.
Hi, and thank you for the question, Councillor. And through you, Mayor Drew, to the Councillor. This type of building would be constructed to a standard that reflects the building purpose and occupancy load, which includes compartmentization, detection, enunciation, and suppression systems, including standpipes and sprinklers. Additionally, the building of this type would require a fire safety plan and sufficient internal resources to act on the fire safety plan. Be inspected annually, and have a witness fire safety drill annually. And given ideal circumstances, a fire attack would be initiated from within the building. Fire and emergency services, by definition, is a volunteer department, and given the uncertainty of a response, a request for mutual aid resources and support from our neighbors would occur should a fire happen in this type of facility.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Director Heritage, would the normal commenting process occur through site plan? I understand the MZO, this format of MZO proposed is what ministry staff are looking for, but it doesn't circumvent the normal commenting process through the site plan approval.
Councillor Kiesebrink,
yes, Madam Mayor.
This question period is for the delegation. There is a motion coming forward. You could ask Director Heritage at that time. Okay.
Oh, thank you. If I could just ask one further question, Madam Mayor, of Mr. Barfoot.
Please.
Okay. How did you come upon the design for this facility? It's very different than your website and all of the other long-term care facilities that you currently have. It doesn't really reflect the heritage nature of our community, and I'm just wondering about your design and how you came upon that.
To be quite honest with you, our focus has always been on the care for our residents and their safety. And in order to deliver that, we need to be able to lay forward an efficient layout that our staff can deliver that kind of care and safety for our residents. So over the course of the period that we started with the design for the existing 4 projects, we've evolved to this concept because it purely adds to the care and safety of our residents. And without a doubt, the present COVID situation has enhanced what we've needed to do in order to protect our residents. So that's how we've aligned with this present concept.
I think, Mr. Barfoot, that Councillor Kiesebrink is probably referring to the outside design, looking a little bit more institutional than homey or residential or warm. Would that be correct, Councillor Kiesebrink? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's what I'm asking.
So I'm not an expert in exterior design, but we've hired an architectural firm that is, no question about it, leading edge in being able to design something that will fit in with the community. We had our discussions with staff last week. They thought that this would be a great design to introduce this subdivision with this project. However, again, this is a rendering and a concept. And as we go through the building permit process and the site plan process, We will take staff's direction, and through that process, we will land on something that will be more than suitable for the community.
Thank you, Mr. Barfoot. Anything further, Councillor Kiesebrink?
That's all for now, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Kiesebrink asked some of the questions I was going to ask. I'm looking at the same picture, and just for the sake of having said so, I don't like it at all. I don't like the appearance at all. So if you're telling me, Mr. Barfoot, that there is lots of wiggle room to better reflect what Port Perry looks like and what its people believe it should look like, that'd be good news, because what I see here, I don't like at all, frankly.
Fair enough. You can take that back to your people, Mr. Barfoot. Any comment?
We'll take that back to our architect, and yeah, it will be hard to get everybody to agree with what the outside of the building will look like. But we're going to do our best through cooperation with the staff and the process, and I'm sure we'll land on something that will be suitable. Again, our focus has always been on the care of our residents and their safety, and no question about it. But we will do the best we can to find a good fit for the community. We want to be good corporate citizens.
Well, thank you very much. Anything further, Councillor Brown?
No, that's great, and thanks for the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Barfoot. And I apologize if you've mentioned this already. Were there other sites in Port Perry that were considered?
So it's been a journey. We started this journey back as long as 2 or 2.5 years ago, and we have looked at a number of sites. And to get something that was the right size and the right fit and the right location, we struggled, quite honestly. And so now that we've landed on something that we believe is workable and it will fit with the ministry's schedule, we're pretty excited and pretty passionate about moving forward with this. We have, like I said, tried to explore other options, and yeah, quite frankly, we've come up dry.
Thank you. And if I may further, you had indicated that there was a criteria that you typically look at, and one is location. What is that? What is the typical criteria for the right location?
So it's very simple. We need 4 acres. We need municipal services that includes adequate water supply, sanitary and storm connections. We also need to be within the community so that our staff can either bike to work, walk to work, have public transit to work, or adequate space to park. As you are aware, there's going to be as many as 250 jobs on this location. And so we've got to make sure that staff has an appropriate place to park. Generally, that's the quick 4 or 5 points that we look for criteria.
Thank you. And a few times in your presentation, you mentioned the word fit in the subdivision. Is the plan only that this long-term care facility will move forward if it's in an overall development of a subdivision, or is your concern strictly for the moving forward of this long-term care facility?
Our primary interest is the long-term care, but we understand and know that any time that a subdivision is being proposed, there's a lot more involved than just the long-term care. There's a number of additional services that would support and complement long-term care. One of them, as an example, would be a site for a retirement community. And one of the things that the ministry does look for is that continuum of care. We have not focused on the retirement site, but that is a potential that we might join with Rick and his subdivision as a follow-up to the building of our long-term care. clearly our focus is for the long-term care, but that's not to say that we wouldn't entertain an additional site for a retirement home to complement the long-term care.
Perfect. Thank you. No further questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Guido. Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Barfoot, for your presentation. Certainly a difficult subject at this current point in time, long-term care homes with the current state of the union, let's say. My question is with regards to the provincial announcement. Was the allocation for the beds specifically to the Port Perry area or to the corporation or both? To you, Madam Mayor.
So in response to your question, it's specific for Port Perry. The other allocations that we have been awarded or for other specific communities. So as such, this allocation cannot be swapped out and moved to another community. If I have trouble finding a site that is satisfactory to the ministry, the allocation would be just withdrawn by the ministry.
So, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, just to clarify, so the allocation is for Port Perry, but is the allocation for Port Perry to Southbridge or just to Port Perry in general?
At this point in time, it's for Port Perry and for Southbridge in combination. So we can't reassign it to another company, and nor as the ministry prepared to pass it on to another company. So the allocation is specifically for Port Perry and Southbridge. Because we have the existing home in Port Perry, they're expecting us to move forward and complete the project.
Okay, very good, thank you. And then I think Councillor Guido had already asked the question with regards to sites. So there was other sites considered in the area, but there was just not enough land on municipal servicing that would work for the Southbridge, for the 4-acre site that Southbridge needed. Is that correct?
That's correct. We looked at the land the excess land that the Legion had. We looked at the subdivision between, I'm trying to recall here, between the Legion and Rick's new subdivision, and that was all being redeveloped with residential space, and we couldn't find a site in there. There was a number of other sites that we looked at, and I think I even mentioned to staff whether the fairgrounds would be even available.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one further question, I guess, maybe perhaps with regards to the exterior of the building. I would second Councillor Brown's ideas in terms of perhaps if it's possible to soften the exterior and have less of a glazed look, maybe something more in keeping with what we have towards your other facility. Anyway, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, Mr. Barfoot, can you speak to the need for more long-term beds in our area?
I don't have the specific numbers for this area. I just know that when we started this process, there was a waiting list for long-term care in Ontario of some 30,000. And that now has exceeded that significantly. And the latest numbers that I've heard is it's now at 40,000.
And that's for all of Ontario, correct?
That is correct. So I don't have the specific numbers for Port Perry, but I don't think it would be much different than Ontario in the fact that there's a huge waiting list. We don't typically have occupancy problems. Well, we don't have occupancy problems for our long-term care homes.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. If you, based on your other long-term care in Port Perry, do you know of the waiting list, or that there is a waiting list at all?
There will be a waiting list. Unfortunately, I'm not as connected to the operations as I am to the development side. I just know that there is a huge demand with the baby boomer population that's coming forward. And with Port Perry being somewhat of a tourist and retirement community, the demand's even just going to be significantly higher. We have no hesitation in building the 224 bed facility. A lot of other communities are much smaller than that. And that's based on what the ministry feels that the community is going to need in the future.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
No problem.
Thank you very much. I don't have any further speakers, but I do have a question. Mr. Barfoot, on all your other facilities, and especially the ones that you're building now, on the site, are there any other buildings on the site other than the long-term care home and the parking?
So I can share with you that no, it is just the long-term care facility and the parking required to support that. However, in Cornwall, we have an 8-acre site, so there is room for either another long-term care facility or retirement or other options. But again, we're focused on the long-term care. In Kemptville, we have a 12-acre site. And again, we have 160 beds being built there, and we will build something, but at this point in time, it's not the focal point. And if the requirement is for another long-term care facility, we have room to expand there. Unfortunately, in Owen Sound and in London, we have smaller sites, and they will be standalone long-term care.
Thank you. And you are looking for a 4-acre site here, are you not?
As a minimum, yes, and depending on how we get the approval process going here, we may secure another additional 4 acres or something like that for a retirement or a future long-term care facility in addition to this one.
Thank you. I don't see any further questions. Councillor McDougall, your hand is still up. Is that from before, or do you have another question?
No, Madam Mayor, that is from before. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Barfoot, for your presentation this evening. And we have another, Mr. Gibbon is speaking on the MZO as well. So I will call on Mr. Gibbon at this point.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. And I just wish that we had video that you could see the passion that that I have for this project.
I can hear it.
Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I'll move to receive that.
It's already been moved, and I guess we need to vote on that to receive the motion, receive the presentation. So that's already been moved and seconded. Am I correct?
You are
Madam
correct.
Clerk? Yes, thank you. All those in favor, would you please call the vote, Ms. Fryer?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Ms. Fry, it's Councillor Ross. I vote in favor. My system's down right now.
Thank you.
I vote in favor as well. It's Councillor Guido. Thank you.
Thank you. That's carried unanimously. And now I'll call on Mr. Don Gibbon.
Your Worship, it's Don Gibbon here.
Welcome.
Thank you, members of council and staff. I do intend to be relatively brief. The resolution that you have in front of you has been very well researched and has done a good job of explaining what is being proposed here. I would like to just highlight a few things and then take questions. What's driven the need for an MZO here is the urgency that I understand is faced by your community for the need to replace the existing facility and the beds in it. And I could not understand how we could do this any other way than rely on a minister's zoning order, because the process that would implement the conversion that you previously supported would take us about 5 years or so to get to a stage where we could be talking about what we're talking about tonight. The MZO is something that the ministry does recognize is one of the types of uses that they would like to see given priority. I was aware of that, and on that basis, I wanted to pursue it, but it will only go forward to the minister for support if you support it. And I think that's clear in the resolution you have in front of you. The ministry wants to be very clear that they are not forcing things on municipalities that they do not want. They want to know what they're going to be asked to do is supported by the municipality. With respect to the location of the facility, when we were discussing the conversion previously, you had a plan in front of you that showed a concept for how the lands that were going to be converted would look. We contemplated a mixture of uses, including long-term care, retirement homes, commercial, lower density residential, and all of that was done with a collector road coming in from Reach Street. I think as we start to move forward and work with your municipality through the site planning process, we will be able to draw you into the discussion about both what you talked about, which is the look of the building, but also the appropriate location, which in some ways is going to be driven by access to Reach Street, driven by the availability of servicing, and driven by the long-term opportunities for the land adjacent to it. So it all fits ultimately into the community that we are proposing here. The key thing here, though, was that we are asking the zoning to be applied to the lands that you previously supported for the conversion, because we didn't know where the best location would be. We wanted to make sure it was done in full consultation with Mr. Barfoot's firm, but also with the municipality so that you had input to that location. Because I do think the type of building you want on Reach Street will be an important addition to the community's urban fabric, and the urban design will be very important on that street. But we did recognize that it was also close to the hospital facilities. It was easily accessible to some retail, and that it made some sense for the rest of the community there that would be surrounding it to have opportunities close by for people to work within the home when it is finally built out. But my main concern in asking for the MZO is urgency. You've heard about the length of time that it would take if we followed the regular process. By following an MZO, this can be in the ground and start construction in 2022 for an opening in 2025, which is consistent with what we understand to be the province's priority for opening up and expanding these opportunities for long-term care. Happy to take questions, Madam Mayor, members of council. It's a pleasure to be before you. I think this is good news for the community, and I hope you'll support the resolution that's in front of you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Given. Could I have a motion to receive, please? Councillor Kiesebrink and Councillor McDougall. Questions? Councillor Kiesebrink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Given, for your presentation, and also Mr. Barfoot prior. Appreciate that. I'll just re-ask that question. I believe on an earlier document, there was a part of the property that was you'd called M1, and it looked like it avoided, there was EP on either side. So the specific portion of Mr. Wanup's land that we're discussing, it is in fact not, it's avoiding any environmental protection portions of the property. Is that correct, Mr. Given?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, it is.
Okay, so the request, your MZO request does state 1520, 1540, and 1580 Reach Street, but later in the document you mentioned that it would be located at 100 Reach Street. Could you explain that? Does the site intersect with all the addresses, or?
It really was left when we drafted it that we wanted flexibility to work with your staff. We think we probably will be on Reach Street where the future collector road would enter into the property so that you have a long-term access that is not dependent on Reach Street. But initially, we weren't sure that that was where the best and most efficient servicing solution would occur. So we deliberately constructed the MZO to give us some latitude to work with your staff in the region.
Okay, that makes sense. Director Heritage, so the question that I was wanting to ask earlier, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for guiding me as to the timeliness of this question, but through the normal commenting process with site plan, we would still be hearing from Kawartha Conservation Authority, Planning, Economic Development, Durham Region, Building, Fire, Health, Enbridge Gas, all of those.
Councillor Kiesebrink, is this question for Director Heritage?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Can you ask that when we have the motion in front of us?
Okay. So when would you like me to ask the question?
when there's a motion coming after this, after this delegation?
So no questions for Director Heritage yet. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Given, a question for you then. What would be the value of the construction of this facility for Skugog? And when do you anticipate securing a building permit should this MZO go through?
Mr. Barfoot has the value. He did explain that to staff, and I believe it's covered in the resolution you have in front of you. I don't have it open at this time, so I can't read that number, but I believe it's in that resolution. And in terms of your second part of that was when would the building start?
Correct.
As soon as we can get a permit.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I do have questions for Director Heritage. Perhaps you could guide me as to when I can ask those. Thank you.
Thanks. Any further questions for Mr. Given? Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Given, for your presentation. A question I have is how big is the site in total that we are looking at in the MZO? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Well, the zoning would be a general permission across the area that you've already said would be acceptable for conversion, but we aren't intending to use it except for the site that we end up on for the site plan.
Oh, okay. So very good. So the MZO is for the 4-acre long-term care home. Okay. Thank you.
Anything further? Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Given, and we'll move on to the. We have a mover and a seconder. Can we call the vote, please, Ms. Bragg?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor. Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that is carried unanimously. Thank you once again, Mr. Given, for your presentation this evening. With Council's blessing, I will move to the notice of motion 12.1, and it is moved by Councillor Watton, seconded by Councillor Ross. Councillor Watton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if I might, I'd like to just make a slight amendment to it with that has been through Mr. Director Heritage's guidance. So I'm not sure, Ms. Jameson, if that's the one showing.
For you, Councillor Watton, it is the one showing. We've added it in. It's just a few tiny wording changes that I can run through if you would like. As per. When I'm looking at what I see displayed in front of me, that is not what I understood from. There's some wording missing on this. If it's on the one that's showing on the screen. No, you are correct. It isn't the correct one. So just give us 2 seconds here and I can pull that up.
Thank you.
Your change doesn't it's generally the same. It's just wording changes, is it, Councillor Watton? Doesn't change the intent?
No, I don't think so. It's basically pretty much the same. It has taken out a couple of words and reformatted part of it, but it's basically the same intent, yes.
There we go. There's the changes. Thank you, Ms. Jameson.
So, Madam Mayor, would you like me to read them, or how would you like me to process for this motion? I mean,
you know what? I think that I know it's long, but I'm wondering if our listening audience, if you will, would appreciate you reading it.
okay, if you're fine with that, I will go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Sorry, can we just get the seconder to agree to the friendly amendments, the wording changes, and then Councillor Watton can read it through?
Okay, Councillor Ross, do you agree with the changes that were made?
I do. If we could just, absolutely, I do. If we could just go through it though, just to make sure that they're all crossed properly. Thank you.
Yep, I'm going to have Councillor Watton read it. Take a drink of water, Councillor Watton. This is a long motion.
Okay. That's actually coffee, but okay. Whereas the owners of the properties municipally known as 1520, 1540, and 1580 Reach Street, Port Perry, Rick Wanup Developments, Wanup Family Farms, and Daniel and Robin Luchka have been approached by Southbridge Care Homes to facilitate a site on these lands to construct a long-term care facility. And whereas Council adopted Resolution CR 2020-157 on December 13th, 2020, supporting the conversion of these designated employment lands, being 1520, 1540, and 1580 Reach Street, Port Perry, to non-employment uses. And whereas the conversion of these designated employment lands requires a comprehensive and regionally scaled municipal comprehensive review process, which is not expected to be finalized by Durham Region and approved by the province through a regional official plan amendment until 2022 at the earliest. And whereas following the ROPA process, the Township of Skugog would need to complete an official plan amendment and rezoning process to conform to the new ROPA and permit non-employment uses, including long-term care, on the subject lands. And whereas it is estimated that the land use permissions for long-term care facilities on the subject lands would not be granted until 2023-2024, and site plan approval would not be finalized till 2024-2025 at the earliest. And whereas the province of Ontario announced in March of 2021 the allocation of 96 new spaces and 75 upgraded spaces to the long-term care facility in Port Perry, in addition to the already pledged 53 new beds for a net new 224-bed long-term care facility in Port Perry. And whereas there are plans in place to repurpose the existing long-term care facility to accommodate either seniors' retirement home or affordable housing once the new facility is constructed, and whereas the owners are requesting the use of an minister's zoning order to expedite the construction of a new long-term care facility on a portion of the subject lands, 1520, 1540, and 1580 Reach Street, Port Perry, by establishing the necessary land use permissions faster than a normal official plan and zoning bylaw amendment process. And whereas under the guidelines of the minister's zoning order, the province requires a local municipal council to submit their positions in response to an MZO request. And whereas final approval of the long-term care facility will still ultimately require site plan approval and building permits which would follow the standard Township of Skugog approval process. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Skugog advise Minister Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, that it supports the request for a minister's zoning order for the properties municipally known as 1520, 1540, and 1580 Reach Street, Port Perry, Rick Wanup Developments, Wanup Family Farms, and Daniel and Robert Luchka for the development of a long-term care facility, retirement home, medical center, daycare, post-secondary education facility, and that these uses be added to the list of permitted uses already defined by zoning bylaw 1414 on the subject lands as outlined in the planning opinion letter from Mr. Don Given. Further, that Minister Clark be requested to expedite this order, and further that this motion be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Doug Ford, Durham MP, the Honourable Aaron O'Toole, Durham MP, the Honourable Lindsay Park, the Minister of Infrastructure, the Honourable Laurie Scott, the Minister of Health, the Honourable Christine Elliott, the Minister of Long-Term, the Honourable Marilee Fullerton, and the Minister of Finance, the Honourable Peter Bartholomew, and Durham Region and other area municipalities. That is my motion, Madam Mayor, and if I speak to it, I would...
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so we've heard from Mr. Barfoot about the need to move this plan forward with respect to the funding timelines and so on. And we also heard Mr. Given speak to the timelines if we were to go through the normal process of the zoning requirements to allow for long-term care on this particular property. We also heard about the search for different locations for Port Perry Place to go, so then if we look at the government's budget, they've just committed $2.6 billion to support additional 30,000 long-term care beds, $4.9 million to increase average daily direct care for long-term care, and $14.5 billion over the next 10 years in transit, schools, broadband, hospitals, etc. As of March 31st, 2020, according to the Central East Long-Term Care Availability Report, there was 9,514 long-term care beds with 12,450 people on a wait list. Closer to home, Port Perry Place has currently 107 beds, and there's 209 patients on a wait list. The wait list for semi-private and shared is over 500 days, while private accommodation in long-term care in Port Perry is 1,193 days on average, over 90% of the time. In December, the staffing issues, the Ontario launched a long-term staffing plan, which includes the largest recruitment and training to improve the commitment for and delivery of care for seniors in long-term care, and hence why I believe that a post-secondary education facility, if we could ever manage to get one on that site, would certainly be a good driver for that as well. But basically, if I could sum, I think we all know the reasons why we need the long-term care, and we also know that we need retirement homes. Statistics aren't lying. They're telling us we're falling behind in all cases on support for both our seniors and our long-term care, and also in our training and education for the people that can look after both seniors and long-term care. So I support the vision outlined by Mr. Given's planning opinion, because I think truly for this community, it would be great to have the expanded long-term care facility, but it would also be great to have more retirement home facilities and an education facility that could support and work in tandem with these facilities. So, to help train and develop the people. I sincerely hope that this council will support the MCO request. We know that it still has to go through the channels of both the region and the township for site plan approval and so on and so forth. And I think that it's important that should the MZO be approved and granted, it will help us address the need, but it will also enable us and keep us poised for opportunities for future facilities, as well as increased employment possibilities. Those are my comments, Madam Mayor, and I'm sure Councillor Ross has a few as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watton. You certainly have done a lot of research on this this whole issue, and that's very much appreciated. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to speak to this briefly. I think Councillor Watton put it into very good context as to the need for this zoning order to go through, but I just wanted to reiterate that I think Mr. Barfoot put it, gave us the examples for the need for this service in our community. I know that there are people waiting in hospitals for long-term care beds, and that's not the right place for them. We have other people that need those beds, and we need these people to be in the right spot for that. So the need is very evident. Second, Mr. Given gave us an eye-opening as to the urgency of this and the expedience that's needed. And I think that's been identified throughout the province, but especially in our community. The process of the MZO, I think, is the one that concerns people the most. And I think it's important to allow for a timely response to the need for long-term care beds right now. And that means that the Skugog official plan and the zoning bylaw will have to be amended. But the MCR, which goes through the region, has to be curtailed. But I think it's important for the public and everyone to know that we're not doing away with all due process, that the site plan application still has to go through, and the building permit, and this all has to be reviewed and approved by the township. So there's still a lot to do here. By no means is this a done deal. But this is a way to get us moving forward. I think the big part of this is that we have an interested partner in doing business with the township and helping our community. And I think, despite the concerns about the outer facade, I think we have a willing participant, and I think that there's a lot to be said for that this day and age, and that, especially in the employment lands, haven't seen uptake the way everybody, I think, would like to see uptake, but this is a willing partner. And I think last is that council has shown the support for different uses for this land, and we are just adding this employment mode onto the zoning area. So I think it's reasonable. I think it's prudent that this goes ahead, and I thank Councillor Watton for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Kiesebrink, now you can ask your question of Director Heritage.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Director, I think this has pretty much been answered since, but I still would like to hear your comments with respect to how this still works, that putting the MZO through doesn't in fact circumvent the due process, as Councillor Ross referenced, with respect to site plan. Could you just tell us a little bit about that and how that would work in the context of this MZO?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, I can finally respond to your question. Yes, Councillor Ross was correct in terms of the applicant will be required to submit a site plan application once they fix a site. As outlined by the applicant, they're looking for a minimum of 4 acres. So once that's identified, they'll submit a site plan application. They'll submit elevation drawings. We can certainly get into discussions of the materials and colors and so on that are used on the outside of the building. We fully intend to engage our control architect that we engage on various projects for the township to provide some input on the way the building will look. And once we get through that process, we'll be dealing with a building permit submission, and that will go through the regular process as well. So there are two major processes that the applicant will have to proceed through in order to get the appropriate approvals to start building on the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Heritage, and further through you, Madam Mayor. Could we request that staff maybe create some sort of architectural guideline, just a guideline document with recommendations for new development, just something that encourages new applications to take into consideration our heritage community? And again, this is just in reference to the facade of the building, not the structural elements that are critical for the care of the residents and the layout of the building, but just more the look and feel of the exterior is more what I'm referencing. I'm just wondering if something like that might be possible.
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, yes, that's something that's certainly possible. We could have discussions with our control architect to provide some comments, a pictorial guide or some text that would go along with that to aid in development throughout the town and throughout Port Perry.
Well, further through you, Madam Mayor, we see this in the Muskokas and some other communities where even the Tim Hortons and the Walmarts, everybody has a certain look and feel to sort of add to the tourism value of that community. And I certainly think that we have a beautiful and attractive community that is a heritage community. It would be really nice to see that be implemented in other structures as well. I did want to mention, just by way of comment, Mr. Givens in his report pointed out that Age-Friendly Durham Strategy and Action Plan states that it's expected by 2031 that 34% of the total Durham population will be residents aged 55 or older. Huffington Post reported December 9th that MZO orders are being used to create critical projects like seniors housing and long-term care homes. I do struggle to understand the province's logic on implementing MZOs without the conditions of refusals that would normally be applied by Ontario's 36 conservation authorities to developments that impact regulated land adjacent to bodies of water or where there's risk of flooding or erosion or what have you. But in this particular MZO, that does not apply to this delegation. So council has already supported this employment conversion request. We did want to see a long-term care facility, to see something come forward this quickly, such as what Southbridge is proposing, I think is really exciting. And I would be in support of Councillor Watton's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a comment, Director? No. Okay.
No, I don't have a further comment, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Kiesbrink, you're absolutely correct. MZOs are given a bad name because a number of them are infringing on hazardous lands or eventually provincially significant wetlands, and so on and so forth. And that's what people are objecting to, but that's not the case in this instance. Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just unmuting myself there. I just would like to ask a question, I believe, of Director Heritage, just with regards to the motion. So as I read this motion, it says that the municipality will support the MZO solely for the development of the long-term care facility. Is that basically a synopsis of how we are moving this forward? To you, Madam Mayor.
To you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The motion that's before council right now includes all the uses that were proposed by the applicant. So it not only includes long-term care, it includes a retirement home, post-secondary institutions, and those types of uses that would complement a long-term care facility.
If I might, Madam Mayor, the word solely has been removed from the amended motion. I'm not sure which Councillor McDougall is looking at.
Councillor McDougall?
I'm reading the motion on eScribe right now, Madam Mayor.
Is that the corrected or the new version? I'm missing the bottom part there, that so I can't see it.
Perhaps the revised motion could be emailed to all of council, maybe, if we can't get it up.
There's the changes there. That's the only changes, I believe, that are up on the screen now.
Correct, Madam Mayor. Those are the only changes. So I've crossed out what has been the friendly amendment that has been removed for council to see. So it was just combining two paragraphs and taking out a couple words. So solely has been removed and as amended, and then permitted uses, and then long-term care facility has been removed as it was in there twice.
Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a further question, I guess, separate from this at this point in time. Is there a requirement for the municipality to consult with the chiefs of the First Nation on this prior to the municipality issuing its standing on this? Through you, Madam Mayor.
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, I'm not aware of that. This is a request coming from the applicant to the municipality to support a minister's zoning order that would be either approved, modified, or denied by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. The approval authority is really the minister in this case.
Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We certainly, there's no secret that in Skugog, if you need a long-term care bed and you need one urgently, you will probably not find one locally. We certainly do need the beds in this municipality, in Port Perry proper. So, I mean, it certainly makes sense to me. I'm just seeking some clarity that this MZO is for the entire property, or if the MZO is for the area for the long-term care home itself.
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The extent of the MZO reflects the area that was proposed for the employment conversion. In terms of the uses, this MZO goes above and beyond the long-term care facility as outlined on the screen. It includes the long-term care facility, retirement home, medical center, daycare, post-secondary education facilities, in addition to the uses that are currently permitted in zoning bylaw 1414, being the industrial uses.
Councillor McDougall?
No, that's all at this time. Thank you very much, and thank you to both the councillors for bringing this forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions. I'll ask myself. How much land was converted from? How many acres was converted from employment lands to the new zoning? Director.
Madam Mayor, are you asking about the area that's identified in red on the schedule to the MZO?
No, the total acreage of what was converted from employment lands. The reason why I'm asking the question is the long-term care facility needs 4 acres.
Yes.
There's additional uses being in this motion of retirement home, medical center, and so on and so forth. How many more acres is that, and how many acres are left to have the residence that was in the original map when the conversion was requested?
Madam Mayor, my understanding is that the request that came forward to council in December requesting the employment conversion encompassed approximately 100 acres. The total acreage of the site is about 150 acres. Mm-hmm. So what's identified in red is, I think it's a little smaller than what was actually brought forward back in December. But
Okay.
perhaps Mr. Given could give a more accurate acreage that's being requested.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Gibbon, could you answer that question, please?
Yes, we're looking at about 70 acres, 75 acres that would be subject to this change with the zoning order. The total conversion was, as Kevin said, about 100 acres, but that's still to be refined because we've got some uses that were being proposed on the west side that allow for a transition that were sort of park-like uses that would allow the retained employment lands to be separated from the new community. Is that helpful?
So, yeah, yes, it is. So we have like about maybe 25 acres left over for parkland and the housing that in your original conversion request.
And there's a woodlot that would be protected.
So how many houses do you think you're going to get on the rest of that land?
We gave you a number some time ago that was based on a layout that we did. And it really still comes down to what we can secure approval through the draft plan approval process. We're not predetermining that. But you know, when you have that much land, you can probably get in there typically somewhere around 17 to 20 units to the hectare, depending on what densities you work on. Hectares about 2.47 acres. So if we've got 70 acres of usable land, that say that's probably a couple hundred units to 300 units.
Okay, it looks quite a bit different from the layout that we saw a few months ago. So just interested to see how many houses could be built on the rest of the land. Thank you very much. Councillor Brown, your hand's up.
Yes, if I may I ask a question of Mr. Givens, Madam Mayor?
Yes, please do.
Okay, Mr. Gibbons, sorry. I'm just, you mentioned the fairgrounds and that you had looked at the fairgrounds. Did I understand that's what you said? Is that correct?
That was Mr. Barfoot that said that, not me.
Oh, okay.
But he's still on the line if you wanted to speak directly to him.
Mr. Barfoot?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, there was a rumor that the fairgrounds might be an option, and I run up the flagpole with staff, and at that point in time, I was told that no, that was not available.
Great. Yeah,
I'm
just clarifying
glad to make
that clear. Thank you. That's great. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions. So we have a mover and a seconder. Ms. Fry, can you call the vote, please?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We put it up, please. I don't see the results of the vote. Thank you. That's all in favor. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to our presenters, and thank you, Councillor Watton and Councillor Ross, for bringing that forward. And now we'll move on to 9.3, and this is about the Durham Dead End Road Kids, and have Michelle Berg, who is making a delegation to Michelle. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and Township staff. It's an honor to be in your company this evening. I'm an effective parent and WPCA board member. We are seeking your support for the motion Councillor Kiesenbrink will bring forward this evening. Thank you so much for watching this video.
This is a story about kids and families who feel
Please be patient while we work out these technical.
We've got a very serious situation here, and we need to do something about allowing our buses to get down and pick up our kids. So we're looking for
Doing videos on during our meetings is something a little new here, so please be patient while we work out the bugs on this.
Madam Mayor, I'm having difficulty playing this video. One moment, please. Are you able to see my screen?
We can, yes, Sandra, we can see your screen. We just can't hear it. Sandra, do you want me to try to share it?
driveways. Instead, they're going to be picked up on the highway. Story about kids and families who feel abandoned in a pandemic.
we've got a very serious situation
Can you
here.
hear now?
We need to do something about allowing our buses to get down and pick up our kids. So we're looking for your help.
DSTS sent this letter to parents advising them that their children would no longer be picked up at their driveways.
Instead,
To parents advising them that their children would no longer be picked up at their driveways.
how old are you?
4.
You're 4. And
Here. Sandra, I'm going to try to do it off my screen here and see if it'll play.
I can't seem to do it. My apologies.
this is a story about kids and families who feel abandoned in a pandemic.
We've got a very serious situation here, and we need to do something about allowing our buses to get down and pick up our kids. So we're looking for your help.
DSTS sent this letter to parents advising them that their children would no longer be picked up at their driveways.
Instead, they're going to be picked up on the highway, which in many cases is like 2 kilometers. Hey, everybody, meet Avery. Hi, Avery. How old are you?
4.
You're 4. And how far is the bus stop?
Really far. This is where the bus used to turn around, in this driveway here. It's very big, as you can see. There's lots of room. And behind us on this side, there's no ditch. So they're expecting Avery to walk down to the end of the street, which is almost a 2-kilometer walk. And it takes about 40 minutes there and back. And she has to do that twice a day.
The safety officer advised that the children could wait for the bus, the BCOG kids, right here. But this is actually an embankment of a bridge. There's a railing missing. And look, see? It's not safe. We wanted everyone to see this new bus stop location on Highway 57 at the bottom of a blind hill.
We've asked for traffic studies and traffic counts to prove that this is safe. We've asked for signage to warn drivers that a bus could be stopping at the bottom of the hill.
We just want to express our concern as well about the busing route. It's just not going to work for these children to have to walk down such a busy road.
In the morning and at night.
Yeah, all the time. And
something happens with the bus at the end of the day. Where are they supposed to go?
Yeah, we have to think about their safety and what's a priority. And, you know, why make the change? Everything's been fine how it is.
If they're coming up here, they're more apt to get hit. Somebody hits black ice, hits everyone that's standing here. That could be 13 young ones that just died for no reason whatsoever when we could keep it safe.
My name's Steve Anning. I'm a health and safety coordinator with Hydro One. So my work often takes me around the province, which puts all of the responsibility of taking my children to the bus stop on my wife. I have an almost 4 and an almost 2-year-old. So you can imagine the difficulty that it would take for my wife to get 2 small young children to the end of the street for a bus stop. What drives me crazy is that it's been possible in the past for a bus to make a 3-point turn at the old bus route. So if it's the issue of doing that, why is a smaller bus not the possibility? I think the safety of our children should be paramount over maybe a small difficulty for a bus.
In 2018, Global News featured a story of Skugog mom Krista, who had to pull her 6-year-old daughter Liliana out of school because she couldn't go to a new dangerous bus stop on Cartwright West Quarter Line that was a kilometer away and assist her son who was on disability at home. She can't be in 2 places at once. All this because the original stop didn't have a big enough turnaround. We must thank Durham Student Transportation Service. They did inform us yesterday that they are going to push out the start of this highway pickup until December 18th to give everybody more time to talk. But the bottom line is, well, we just don't think that this is enough.
Just this week, a 12-year-old boy was killed in Port Hope, waiting at the base of a
Was there very much left on that video?
The Durham District School Board's policy says that they can use alternative methods.
That's right, page 6.
Page 6, it says they can use public transit, they can use taxis, and what other forms there are, but they can use alternatives.
To get on the bus here, that's really hard and not so safe. Parents are in a pandemic. The bottom line is they should not have to choose between their child's safety or their child's shelter. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. We hope that you will like and share. If you have this situation occurring in your community, please talk to your school board trustees, talk to your school boards. We do want to make sure our children are safe.
Thank you, Michelle, for bringing this, and thank you to the couple of stars there, Councillor Watt and Councillor Kiesebrink, for making that video. Michelle, did you have anything that you wanted to add? We could give you another few minutes if you...
No, thank you. I think what I'll do is I'll hang around for Brent and Stephen's delegation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay, why don't we move to the next delegation, and then if there's questions, they can ask it of all of the delegates. How's that? So we'll move to 9.4, Brent Clemens and Stephen Anning, and then we'll have a motion to receive both delegations. Brent and Stephen, welcome.
So this is Brent. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council and staff. I'm the president of the Williams Point Cottagers Association. Kind of an exciting year in a pandemic. Unfortunately, this is our 100th anniversary, so I had to get that out there while we were talking. But just so you understand my background, I've been in this community for almost 60 years. I represent 150 homes. I just heard Becky there. I represent 150 home members and along Williams Point Road, Jackrabbit, Potts, Dover Lane, Heritage, and Shady Acres. And it's important for me to say that I'm here representing the community. We had an annual general meeting last year, and this topic was a large subject that we agreed to take on and try and get some support from local council and you, Mayor Drew. Anyway, the biggest, the nicest part about this whole approach is Councillor Kiesenbrink and Watton have been very supportive trying to get this going, and really appreciate the video that was put forward there. We're very frustrated and terrified that our children that live on this street that used to get picked up on this road are going to have to traverse a very twisted 3-kilometer back road area, sometimes at dark in the snow, to reach 57 Highway, a speedy road in an area that is not well set up for a bus stop. And without going into a lot more detail, Stephen's got a great presentation. You saw the video, and there's a number of letters that are on file from Stephen, Laura Turnbull, I think that you've already seen. So I'll try and keep this short and just say, really appreciate Councillor Kiesenbrink and Watton's support, and this community fully endorses and supports the notice of motion that is being presented by Councillor Kiesenbrink. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen and his part of the delegation. Thank you very much again for letting us have this opportunity.
Thank you. Stephen?
Council. So I am an affected parent from this bus route change. For a little bit of background and context, my job is in health and safety, and when I first heard about this issue, it blew my mind that we're going to ask children to walk well over 2 kilometers from the end of the street to the front of the street. We have, at the best of times in the winter, we have conditions that are constantly changing. Even now, when we're getting warmer weather, it's still, we're dark in the morning bringing our kids, and it just seems to me that we are pushing cost efficiency for a bus route to not come down and do a 3-point turn or use a private driveway for a turnaround. And we're pushing that onto the children as opposed to coming up with another solution. Something we say all the time is we improvise, we adapt, and we overcome. And for the minds that came up with this idea to push children to be walking well over 2 kilometers in some cases to a bus stop that is on a highway with active traffic constantly going in during commuter hours. And for the parents that have the luxury of being able to sit in a car, they're now idling their cars at the end of a street, and again, possibly impeding traffic coming out of the street and on the highway to accommodate this change. It seems strange that for years that this was possible, and then all of a sudden we are now changing this to a situation that just really doesn't seem safe. And it's scary as a parent knowing that it's going to be on my wife to have to take a 4-year-old daughter to a bus stop, and we're not going to be leaving my 2-year-old son at home. So now that's the logistics of getting them both up to that stop. And it's a nightmare. Honestly, I drive to work and I have to think about that happening. It scares me. And the worst thing that I want to hear is something on the news or a terrible phone call saying that something's happened just because we couldn't put the children's safety paramount in this issue. So I'm really pleading with you to please endorse our motion.
I don't think you're going to have to plead too hard on this. The video was very telling, and certainly this is an unacceptable situation. Our fire trucks can navigate that road, and our snow clearing. There's no reason why the school buses can't, or a shorter school bus can do that. I think that I would like to point out that this same presentation is going to Brock and Uxbridge, and we expect that we're going to have support there as well. We certainly talked to the mayors, but it isn't just Williams Point. This is happening all over Ontario. Totally unacceptable to have kids walk that distance. And as you say, in the wintertime, especially if you have to walk 2 kilometers, you start well in the dark. And when you come home, it's the same thing. You're walking home in the dark. Totally unacceptable. Councillor, first of all, I'll ask for a motion to receive both delegations. And Councillor Watton and Councillor Brown, make that motion. Could we call the vote, please, on receiving the delegations?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that is carried unanimously, not a surprise. Now, the mover of the motion, we have a notice of motion here by Councillor Kiesebrink, seconded by Councillor Watton. Councillor Kiesebrink, would you like to say anything? And I think perhaps you should read your motion.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Dead-end road kids are actually in the news around the province, but not for the right reasons. Parents are desperate and appealing to their transportation companies, but without success. With the motion, I've attached a PDF. If you click on any of the images or links, you can actually read the full news stories. And I was shocked to see how many families, we're not the only group of parents to make a video. Other families have made, parents have made videos. And it fully explains the point of our bus stop motion today in that PDF that's with this motion. If you are watching on YouTube and you'd like a copy, the township can email you one. Here's the motion, Madam Mayor. That dead-end road delegations be received from parents, the video, our website, durhamdeadendroadkids.ca, and that the attached correspondence be received. 130,000 Ontario bused students are impacted around our province as student transportation services are citing that buses shouldn't access private roads, should no longer do 3-point turns or back up. Kids are expected to walk 1 to 2 kilometers twice daily, caregivers 4 times in the morning dark on narrow road shoulders with no bus stop ahead warning signage. Whereas parents report employment and housing at risk, they must leave work to drop off or pick up their children midday to avoid safety hazards of their kids walking on highways unsupervised. Secondary school youth are reporting education at risk as missing class affecting grades. Children with disabilities not helped, like a double amputee who needs their bus stop moved 160 feet, but they won't move it. Parents are told it's their responsibility to get kids to bus safely. Whereas parents are being told the busing policy is the school board's, but then they say it's the Student Transportation Service, who say it's the Governance Committee or it's the Ministry of Transportation. But the Ministry of Education's website says the Transportation Consortia administer policy. So the trustee and the governance say they cannot change policies. So parents are appealing to police, to press, to councils regarding their dangers. And then an oncoming car killed 12-year-old Cormac and injured his sister while waiting at their newly relocated bus stop at the base of a hill. And whereas student transportation have advised road improvements are the responsibility of municipalities, and yet municipalities don't own the needed land nor have millions to create those 77-meter bus turnarounds. And meanwhile, whereas the Ontario Transportation funding is $1 billion for transportation, January 27th, the ministry said that they'd improve student transportation review funding formulas, and given the student transportation services get their funding by scoring well in these ministry reviews, and given the ministry is establishing a student transportation advisory group to hear the sector expertise, experiences, and ideas, now therefore be it resolved that the municipality of Skugog requests 1. Exceptions to allow 3-point turns or backing up where necessary to provide safer service to dead-end and private road kids, that policies be amended to reflect this. And when not possible, 2. Exceptions to allow indemnification agreements to access private land for bus turnarounds to keep bus stops safer and closer to the prescribed 800-meter distance. Like minibuses, vans, taxis, or public transit, worked into the funding formula so it doesn't negatively impact their funding statistics. And 5, KID KPI, key performance indicators, be included for the Ministry of Efficiency and Effectiveness follow-up reviews, establishing benchmarks for responsive problem solving for kids and parents' busing concerns, and that this be a student transportation factor to receive their funding. 6, that the province provide parent portal for ongoing busing feedback of their student transportation services so families and kids can review and provide their comments, especially during ministry reviews and revisions to funding. And finally, 7, that the province have GPS tracking software to notify parents when their children are picked up and dropped off, and that this motion be distributed to Premier Doug Ford, Honourable Stephen Lecce, Minister of Education, Honourable Carolyn Mulrooney, Minister of Transport, Durham MPP Lindsay Park, Halliburton Kawartha Lakes Brock MPP Laurie Scott, all Durham MPPs, Durham Region, all Ontario municipalities, Rural Ontario Municipal Association, Ontario Good Roads Association, and Association of Municipalities of Ontario.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kiesebrink. Did you have any other comments that you would like to make to back up your motion?
Madam Mayor, I don't think anybody is the bad guy in this. I just think that there has become a huge disconnect. I think that it's become generally not the preferred.
And the Durham Catholic School Board.
And the Durham Catholic School Board. And this is just our community. This is also around the province. There's now become this swirling vortex where parents are stuck. If they go to their trustee, if they go to their counselor, if they go to DSTS or their local transportation company, they're just getting status quo pat answers. And there's this huge lack of connectivity and common sense and customer care, and it has to be fixed. When I looked at the Deloitte and Touche reviews of the DSTS, they got a high rating by them, but there's no KPI, there's no key performance indicators that are for the whole aspect of kid care and customer service. When you look at this document that I've attached, it's shocking to me that we have a double amputee. This is on page 5. A double amputee, he needs his bus stop moved 160 feet. He has two, he doesn't have his legs. They're expecting him to cross an intersection. There's snow. He keeps falling. His name is Rui. And the bus goes right by his house. But the bus company refuses to budge. And this story has made international news headlines. That should not be. When you look at Limberlost Reserve up in the Muskokas, these kids are being dumped. And I say dumped because that's how it feels to me as a parent. My children are grown up now, but my children grew up on a dead-end road. These children are being put out onto Highway 60. There's been 10 opportunities to be killed. This dad spoke to their council and begged the council to do something because they'd appealed to the busing company to no avail. In fact, Limberlost Forest and Wildlife Reserve offered their entrance for a bus turnaround, but their bus company said that they cannot use private land. So unless the reserve donates the land to the municipality, they will not turn around there. Right now, I appreciate the parents who came today in this delegation. On Williams Point Road, Laura Turnbull, whose family are sick, so she couldn't be here tonight, she took a photo. Picture this. The bus is stopped partway down the hill. Cars come over the hill. They don't see the bus stopped until they're over the hill. There's cars stopped behind the bus, so they slam on their brakes. They honk their horns. Other cars are coming around the corner on Williams Point Bend. They don't know that there are kids and parents and a bus stopped in the middle of the intersection. Parents are running out screaming, "Stop, stop," because they don't want their kids to be hit. This is already happening right now, and they started this in the winter in a pandemic. I can't stress enough my concern that we're talking about children's lives and averting tragedy, but I also think we can make things better for children right around our province if we do this together, and I would ask that council support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kiesebrink. And the seconder, Councillor Watton, who's also worked very hard on this whole project. Councillor Watton, did you have any comments that you'd like to make?
No, I don't think so. I think Councillor Kiesebrink articulated it very well, and our delegates articulated it, and our video speaks to it. And truthfully, we need to draw in the, as far as I'm concerned, we need to draw in the forces, and we need attention paid to this ASAP. So this is a good start, and I know that Councillor Kiesebrink is presenting to both Brock and Uxbridge, and there's strength in numbers, so let's hope we can get some change. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Watton. And I didn't call for questions to the delegates, so I'll ask now if any councillors have questions to the delegates or to the report, to the motion. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. First of all, congratulations on, I realize the video is a little bit difficult to air, but it made a whole whack of a lot of sense, as did both of you, my fellow councillors, so well done on all this. I did want to ask about the DSTS and their responses to the complaints that obviously are very numerous. Can somebody give me an example of the interchange between yourselves and the DSTS? Because I imagine there's been some, but I don't know how much, and I don't know how it was taken.
Do any of the delegates have an experience that they'd like to share, or I could turn it over also to Councillor Kiesebrink or Councillor Watton? Who would like to go first?
I could go, Mayor Drew.
Okay, please go ahead.
So I actually live on Jackrabbit Run. We're the second furthest house impacted. So when I first received the letter, I very quickly sent a note to the principal at the school, not really knowing what to do, who in turn escalated my concerns to DSTS. When DSTS came out, they had a meeting, and really what they shared with me over and over again was, and I'm 2.4 kilometers to the bus stop from my house.
Oh my goodness.
My daughter's 16, so I mean, you know, she is a high school student, but my concerns include 3 blind corners, an S-bend with 2 blind corners, and then the 3rd blind corner for her to walk through. It's a 30-kilometer-an-hour speed limit. There's no sidewalks, and again, the darkness in the fall and in the winter. I also have a neighbor directly across the street from me who has a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, similar to Steve and to Kayla, that are, you know, heavily impacted. So, anyhow,
and Michelle, what was the reaction from the Durham Student Transportation?
The reaction really is that it's my responsibility to get my child to the bus stop safely. And while it's a factor in their decision making, it's against their bus policy for buses to turn around with children in it. It's against their policy for a bus to do a 3-point turn. And they really don't want to be sending a small bus down here. They want to send a large bus. So that was the only response I got. But it was really just constantly repeated that it's my, like, as much as we went back to the safety concerns and getting the children there. And For myself, I work for RBC. I travel to Ottawa on a regular basis. I was saying, like, my family lives 45 minutes away. I don't have anybody else that I can just say, hey, can you get my kid to the bus? And my husband works in Markham. And this is obviously not during a pandemic, but, eventually life will go back to normal. And again, the response is consistently that it's my responsibility to get my child to the bus stop safely and that it's not theirs.
Okay, thank you. Further, Councillor, or does any other of the delegates have something different that they'd like to share, or Councillor Kiesebrink or Councillor Watton?
So it's Brent, and I think you've got Laura Turnbull's letter, which is very explanatory. It details their latest response. So I don't need to go into that. And I'd asked Deborah if she had anything else that she'd been gathering to speak to, so we cover this off correctly.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Brent.
Kiesebrink?
Oh, sorry.
One thing I'd like to say, though, is it not part of STS policy that children are to be transported if they live more than 800 kilometers, 800 meters from the bus stop? I believe that's their policy as well, so.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I can read you a DSTS letter that was sent to grandfather Curtis on Beacock Road regarding his 4-year-old granddaughter. They said, and I quote, "The governance committee concluded that DSTS transportation policy has been applied and administered appropriately. As outlined in our transportation policy section 3.5, in circumstances where buses cannot gain access, students may be required to walk further to bus stops beyond the 800 meters. Additionally, section 7.2 outlines DSTS reserves the right to determine if the roadway is suitable for travel, given road conditions and necessary space requirements for turn radius of large school vehicles. DSTS has determined that Beacock Road, where you reside, does not have adequate roadway to safely turn around a school bus vehicle. The decision of the governance committee is final and not subject to further consideration. Accordingly, no further action will be taken on this matter by DSTS or the governance committee." So that's Avery, the one who is on the 80-kilometer highway, and her only place to wait for the bus is in the middle of the road or on that bridge.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown, further?
Well, I guess I could ask the councillors this, but maybe it's one of the other delegation. You've got very powerful video there. I'm wondering if DSTS has got a copy of that, or if you intend upon sharing that with them.
Councillor Kiesebrink?
Absolutely. This is a last resort to come to council. We initially thought that if we could have a site visit, they would understand. So we haven't been able to get Ms. Mashulin, the CAO, to come, but her safety officer came to both locations, Beacock and Williams Point, and she stated the same thing that Michelle Berg just stated. So then we got the trustee. The trustee got the new associate principal of Durham District School Board. I told him, hey, bring your boots and we'll go for a hike and we'll show you where these kids are walking. He came down to the sites and nothing happened. So then we thought, well, maybe we make the video and maybe that will help them understand. We made the video and they basically disagreed that the bus stop is on a hill, and they disagreed with the distances, and they said that the video obviously demonstrates that we don't have an interest in working things out. Their only desire is to see us build turnarounds. The problem is we own the roadways, but we don't own the land around the roadways, people's yards, farmland, and what have you. And furthermore, we don't have the millions of dollars it would take to build roadways to affect 178 dead-end roads and 348 kids in Durham region, and that doesn't include around the province. Their policy already states that taxis and vans can be used. They can use bus passes, transit passes. We actually had a meeting set up with Durham Transit for everyone to talk together about some solutions for the dead-end road kids, and they canceled the meeting. So we really feel like it's been going on to a year that we've been advocating. We've actually had some land donated. Williams Point Cottagers Association are willing to cut up their park But they shouldn't have to do that, and we shouldn't have to fundraise to make this happen when they can just send 2 minibuses or send vans. Their transportation companies have other types of vehicles, not just buses. So some of these kids are disabled kids. They have a right to transportation, and it shouldn't be beyond this 800 meters. So we're here to advocate for them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Brown, further?
No, that's great. I gather that they saw the video and disagreed with it. So thank you for your answer.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kiesebrink, Councillor Watton, for bringing this up. We did have the same situation in Ward 1 last year, but it was fortunately resolved. I'm sure it's just a question of time before it occurs at another dead-end road on Ward 1 as well. I guess a question for the councillor, for Councillor Kiesebrink. So Durham Transportation Services has it in their policy that it says the bus drivers, it says, do not perform bus backups or 3-point turns, contact operator for dispatch for further directions. Is that the portion of the DSTS policy that we're looking for reform from?
I think, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that the issue with the policy is that in the beginning we thought, well, if we could get a delegation in front of the policymakers, we can help them understand that maybe backing up a bus isn't ideal, but it's more safe than having kids waiting on the shoulders of high-speed roadways. So we were trying to figure out, where does this policy originate, and how do we get in front of those people to help them understand? But when we spoke with DSTS and asked them about that, they said, well, our policy comes from the Durham District School Board, and the governance committee make those decisions. So then we said, well, can we have a delegation in front of the governance committee to affect this policy? And then I've heard back from Carolyn Morton, February 5th of this year. She wrote, I am sorry, but I have no authority to change decisions made by the CEO of DSTS. That would be out of my hands. So this is a microcosm of what, it's ironic because as a counselor, this is my job and I'm struggling to get answers. I can't even imagine how complex this is for parents. As Michelle said, she started by writing her school principal because she didn't know who to talk to. So the issue is that while the policy exists, no one will say it's our responsibility for this policy so that we can then engage with them to talk about why does this policy make sense? And the parents have asked the bus company, why don't you just turn the bus around empty and then let the kids board? Which is what they've done for 14 plus years, all these years. Sorry, you don't want to get me talking because I'll take too long. I apologize. Hopefully that answers your question.
That's quite all right. Thank you. Further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, in a little more research on this as to why they might not turn the bus around. It turns out that there's an MTO policy that requires a special procedures for bus drivers. It requires them to have a spotter or the drivers to exit the bus and check behind prior to backing up. So I'm hoping that this motion would allow the use of technology such as radar or cameras to allow the bus to turn around in designated driveways or special identified locations in their route using assistive technologies to allow those buses to turn around. Because certainly, as you mentioned, I think there's 33 turnarounds in Uxbridge plus how many in your ward, my ward as well. So certainly that I look forward to that, coming forward.
And further, if I could, Madam Mayor, to your point, Councillor McDougall, this is why we've included Honourable Carolyn Mulrooney, the Minister of Transport, in this motion, because obviously those policies also inform these decisions. So we really need to get everybody to the table, if at all possible. It's difficult in a pandemic, but we could be out of time. We don't know what child is going to come into harm's way, and we just feel that we have to step up and do everything we possibly can.
Yeah, you've written that the last part of your motion is it's going to everybody. So, and that's good. Councillor McDougall, further?
Well, yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing up harm's way, Councillor Kieserbrink. Just two thoughts while we're on that one. The residents of Williams Point might consider having a look at the active transportation plan with regards to getting to and from Caesarea from Williams Point. The other thought in terms of harm's way, I personally, with young children, don't find it advisable to share children's names, ages, and addresses online in a public sort of format. Only private only is what we do with my family, but just a further consideration for the future. Thank you.
If I could, Madam Mayor, the images that are on the Durham Dead End Road Kids website are all purchased images through iStock. And any other images are with parents' permission, and many are wearing masks. But I respect where you're coming from, Councillor McDougall. We've tried to do this in a safe way.
Thank you. Councillor Watton. Oh, sorry, were you finished, Councillor McDougall? Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kieserbrink and Councillor Watton, for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And actually, thank you. Actually, Councillor McDougall brought up the points I was going to make about the MTO and using a spotter or assisted backup cameras and so on and so forth. I would think that surely a good conversation would warrant the use of that as opposed to bringing those kids out to Highway 57. I mean, really, the road is narrow, granted. There are no sidewalks. In the winter, there's the snow, there's people leaving for work. It is a horrendous situation, and I cannot stress enough that we need to have something done about it. Even something as simple as paying to put a spotter, surely the school board or the transportation system, transportation people, surely they could do that in the interim until something could be resolved. It's just beyond comprehension to me. So thank you, Councillor McDougall, for bringing that forward about that as well. So it is not only the student transportation services, it does come also from the province, from the MTO. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kieserbrink, I'm going to have to ask you to be brief. This meeting is going on, and I think you have everybody's support. Please go ahead.
Madam Mayor, further to Councillor McDougall's statement, I'm just wondering if we should do an amendment to point 1 where it says, or backing up where necessary with spotter, or what did you say, Councillor McDougall, assisted technology or assisted?
Through you, Madam Mayor, assistive technologies.
Yeah, we could put in brackets, i.e. with spotter or assisted technologies. Because to Councillor McDougall's point, that is in MTO's policy.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Councillor Watton, do you agree with that amendment?
I think it certainly can't hurt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And
so yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. That's a friendly amendment, I would say. I don't have any other speakers, and I'll ask for the vote to be called, please.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
And not surprising, that is carried unanimously. I want to thank you, Michelle and Brent and Stephen, for your delegations tonight. And I certainly want to thank Councillor Kieserbrink and Councillor Watton. There has been a tremendous amount of energy and work put into this whole thing. And your commitment to this project is certainly commendable. And I can't thank you enough. Councillor Kieserbrink, kudos on that film. That was amazing. And you've got the website going too. You've really, really, both of you worked very, very hard. It's very much appreciated. Thank you. So we will move on now. Is there anybody that desires a 5-minute break? If so, make a motion, please.
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay, that's Councillor Watton, seconded by? Seconder? Councillor McDougall. Call the vote, please. Ms. Wright?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, could we just do a verbal vote, please?
Yes. Is there anybody opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. We will be back at 8:50. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, and I'll ask our clerk to call the roll call, please.
Mayor Drew is present. Councillor Watton, are you present?
I am present.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Guido, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Ross, are you present?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Kiesenbrink?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Present.
Madam Mayor, we do have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We'll move to the consent agenda. I have 10.1.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.8, and 0.10 pulled, as well as 10.2, 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, 0.6 pulled, as well as 10.3, right down to 10.3.7 pulled. Are there any other polls? Hearing none.
Did you say 2.7, Madam Mayor?
No, I didn't. You want that one pulled?
Yes, please.
That's Councillor Kiesenbrink?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, may I have a motion, please, on the rest of the consent agenda as recommended? Councillor Ross, Councillor Kiesenbrink, call the vote, please. Ms. Frey?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor. Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We've done a lot of very important business so far tonight, and we've got a lot to go. And looking at the time, I'm just going to ask that we be as brief as possible in our questions and answers. That would be very much appreciated, so that we don't have to extend the meeting and we're still fresh and with it by the time we finish our meeting tonight. Councillor Watton, your hand is up. Is there something, is that by mistake?
It is.
Okay, thank you. So the first one that was pulled is 10.1.3. Councillor Kiesenbrink, you've asked for this to be pulled.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just the announcement should read that the Blackstock Wellness Shield Pharmacy 14020 Old Skugog Road is advertising vaccine availability coming soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you make the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
And seconder, please. Seconder. Councillor Watton. All those in favor? Ms. Frey?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That is carried unanimously. 10.1.4, Skugog Accessibility Advisory Committee. Councillor McDougall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will make the motion for that.
And the motion is to
hang on.
Accept the minutes as presented, but did you have another motion?
Thank you. It's on screen now, Madam Mayor. That the minutes of the Skugog Accessibility and Advisory Committee meeting of March 31st, 2021 be received, that the council authorized the Township of Skugog to become a member of the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, and that the mayor be authorized to sign the declaration to join the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities.
Thank you, and I believe that's seconded by Councillor Ross. Any questions or comments to the motion?
Madam Mayor, Councillor McDougall.
Please go ahead.
I'd just like to read one quick blurb from our minutes. It's with regards to the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. Sorry.
Yes.
When municipalities become members of the coalition, municipalities commit to investing time, resources to create a more welcoming and inclusive community as part of a network of cities seeking to improve policies against racism, discrimination, inclusion, and intolerance. And I wanted to read that for everybody so they understand what, where Skugog would like to head in the future and what we'd like to be part of. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Very good, Councillor McDougall. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, can we call the question, please?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And
Voting
that's carried. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 10.1.5, Skugog Heritage Advisory Committee. Councillor Brown, you've pulled that?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Kiesebrink, please go ahead, Councillor Brown.
Do you want me to read this?
Please go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so the minutes of the Skugog Heritage Advisory Committee meeting of April 6, 2021 be received, save, and accept for the recommendation regarding the heritage sign guidelines, which shall be endorsed. So there's been a lot of work that's gone into the guidelines. We didn't have them before. They were referred to in the bylaw, but when it came to looking for actual guidelines, we didn't have them, but we put together what we think is a pretty good set of guidelines. So if I can get council's endorsement in that, hopefully they've all had a look at it, then we can go ahead.
Thank you. And I know that many committee members were involved in this, and we relied also on past decisions and put it all together. So great work from the Heritage Advisory Committee. Councillor Kiesebrink.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to comment that the Conservation District sign guidelines with all the detailed drawings, the sample photos, that is so helpful. And I have no doubt that that will allow for a far more expedient, cohesive execution of signage for our heritage downtown. So just a wonderful job. And congratulations to Anya of Sweden and Framers Gallery for your grants that they're getting.
Yes, that's quite exciting. Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Can we call the question, please, Ms. Fry?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And thank you. That is carried unanimously. We'll now move to 10.1.8, the Port Perry Business Improvement Area Board. And that is pulled by Councillor Kiesebrink. Did you wish to make the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Seconder, Councillor Brown. Please go ahead, Councillor Kiesebrink.
Madam Mayor, I think there was some discussion about this. I just wanted to ask the question if the moratorium for filming has been lifted in the BIA area. I know that it was put in place for health and safety concerns, but the province-wide shutdown for commercial film and television production is now lifted, and even supporting activities like hair and makeup services, singers, players, photography are now permitted, even with the current protective measures in place. So I'm just wanting to see whatever revenues can be brought into our downtown to continue to help support our local businesses. I'm just wondering if anyone could comment on that. Thank you.
Director
I can, Madam Mayor.
Oh, okay. Councillor Brown, go ahead, and then I'll call on Director Bowers.
Yeah, I'll give you what I sent in my notes. There was some correspondence today to members of council, and I apologize if Councillor Kiesebrink didn't get it. But in my notes from the meeting, it says Brigida may be time to revisit the moratorium, so they want to have another look at it. The film guys are tested twice a week. They have their own labs. Maybe not to say no anymore. More requests are coming. And then I had a couple of people. One said not on a Saturday, not at Christmas time. Brigida has suggested surveying the members. I believe that's where we're going next. This may be open to smaller films, but some of them don't see the benefit. They lose money when films are around. So it is still slightly contentious, but it is going to go to the membership. They're going to have a look at it and then decide what to do about filming from there.
Thank you. Director Bowers, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Council. I can add that happily that we do have 5 film applications in at the moment, 5 film permits. Some of them are also including road occupancy, but they're mostly on the outskirts, looking to use our rural roads. But film and television do have their own particular set of orders, and they have to follow very, very strict COVID regulations. And Brigitte is correct with regards to testing, et cetera. So I would be very open to that conversation again. The way I'm approaching film at the moment is if we can all feel comfortable with the safety and we are respectful of curbside pickups and pivoted business operations, that we could look at this again, because as we are on the road to recovery, it would be wonderful to bring film into town, the right projects that offer the right compensation as folks are trying to build themselves back up again. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Director. Any questions or comments? Councillor McDougall?
Sorry, yes, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to ask Chief Mark Burney, if he's still present, where are we at in terms of COVID numbers right now? And are we at peak capacity right now, or are we actually on the road to recovery?
Hi, thank you, Councillor, for your question, and through you, Mayor Drew, to the Councillor. Today, actually, in COVID, just before Council, I was looking at the Durham numbers, and in Skugog, we're actually we're starting a little bit of a trend downward. We had a few very high days I would suggest were peaks for us in Skugog. Just a few days ago, we had 11 cases be registered in Skugog. Since then and just before then, however, our numbers were down, and you know, I'm encouraged by the numbers, if that helps you, with respect to Skugog.
Further, if I might, through you, Madam Mayor, would this be the time to encourage tourism and film and additional businesses to be using our downtown, or should we perhaps hold off until we see significant numbers decreasing?
Well, I believe as, or sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, to the Councillor, I believe as Director Bowers had stated, you know, as we begin to recover, I think, you know, we're looking at every opportunity to allow the economy to grow, and this would just be another example as we move out of COVID and our measures that we're living under right now.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
No, thank you very much. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Chief Burney. Thank you.
Director Bowers, your hand is up. Is something you'd like to add?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity. I just wanted to clarify when I mentioned recovery that I was specifically speaking to economic recovery in business. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Can we call the vote, please?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. And we'll now move on to 10.1.10, the Skugog Tourism Advisory Committee, and that is pulled by Councillor McDougall. Please go ahead. Councillor McDougall, do you wish to make the motion?
Yes, I do wish to make the motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Seconder, please. Councillor Watton, please go ahead, Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Question, I'm not sure exactly who to direct this to. It was discussed in the minutes that it was suggested that perhaps Mr. Mackey could be added as a tourism board member. And I was just listening to the Lake Stewart speak the other night in terms of how much revenue the lake brings in every year. And I think it was in terms of around $35 million. It just seems to me that it would be advisable that the Tourism Advisory Committee consider a representative from one of the marinas or someone that's directly related to the lake. I'm not sure if that is a possibility in the future, through you, Madam Mayor.
I think it's addressed in the minutes, isn't it, Councillor McDougall, that they are going to ask for a tourism representative, or was it no, it's on page 5 of the report, that John Mackey be invited to attend all future Tourism Advisory Committee meetings. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, but as a delegate, and I was thinking perhaps it might be advisable to have him as a direct member.
So are you suggesting, were you including in your motion that you would like to have the terms of reference altered to include a member of, say, a marina or a person that has a business on the lake, or how do you want to do that?
That I think that almost exactly as you've said, that a marina operator or a lake-based business tourism operator could be added to the terms of reference for the tourism committee.
Okay, that is
Madam Mayor, may I speak to that when Councillor McDougall is finished, please? I'm the liaison.
Okay, so the Councillor McDougall is making an amendment to the motion. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Watton, is your hand up for that, or was it for to speak?
It was to speak. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so Councillor Kiesebrink, you're seconding the motion on the amendment?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. To the amendment, Councillor Watton, is it to the amendment or to the main motion?
To the amendment.
Oh, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Councillor McDougall's point, it was discussed at length at the Tourism Advisory Committee, and given that there is so few meetings left for this term of the Tourism Advisory Committee, it was decided to not change the terms of reference for this term. And that's why it was determined to invite Mr. Mackey or anyone. I mean, the meetings are public, so anyone can attend, but it was determined to invite Mr. Mackey to attend our meetings and to invite him not as a delegate, but basically to invite him and offer him, ask him if he had anything to add, as some committees do. But the reason it wasn't put forward to change the makeup is because our committee is currently full based on the terms of reference, and that we felt that there was 5 meetings left. So I think is what was determined. So anyway, that was that was why it was determined not to change the terms of reference, but I will leave it in this council's hands. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that explanation. Very helpful. Councillor Kiesebrink? To the amendment? No, hands down. Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if you don't mind, if I can ask through you to Councillor Watton, the question about Mr. Mackey attending, does that mean he's able to, as I say, sit at the table, but not the literal table, but is he able to openly dialogue with the rest of the committee, or would it be just to observe?
Councillor Watton?
My understanding was that he would be invited to have open dialogue, just as sometimes I used myself as an example at EDAC.
Right.
When the chair asks if I have anything to add or anything like that. That was kind of my understanding of how we would move forward with Mr. Mackey. However, I truly think he would be a huge asset to our committee, and should it be this council's decision, I mean, I think that's okay too.
Would it be fair to say, Councillor Watton, since you're on the committee, that the discussion is basically he's welcome to speak, but he wouldn't have voting privileges? Would that be?
Yes, he would. Oh. He would not have voting privileges.
Okay, thank you. Further, Councillor Guido?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other speakers, so to the amendment, could we call the question? Councillor McDougall, did you have anything else you'd like to say about your amendment to wrap up?
No, either way, I'll be happy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Could we call the question, please, on the amendment?
Open to voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Okay, to the main motion. Please call the vote.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And then the amendment would be to add, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we will now move on to 10.2.1, and that is the washroom facilities in downtown Port Perry. And I'll call on our CAO who would like to address this report. Mr. Nix.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the things I heard when I first came to Skugog was downtown washrooms and how we need them to support businesses during the pandemic. And we heard it again this year on how important washrooms are when it comes to visitor and resident shopping experiences in downtown Port Perry. So we wanted to find a solution that would be affordable and workable and support businesses during the pandemic and hopeful recovery. And the more, when we started looking at it, we realized an agreement with the Skugog Council for the Arts was quickly the preferred option. I look at this as a win-win opportunity, and I'd like to thank the SCA for partnering with us to support the Port Perry business community and ensure it's as easy as possible for both residents and visitors to shop downtown Port Perry. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, you had a question, and did you wish to make the motion?
I believe my name's on it already, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Seconder? And Councillor Kiesebrink. Any questions or comments? Councillor Kiesebrink, did you have, or Councillor Brown, did you have a question or comment?
I did. I just wanted to ask, I guess, Mr. CAO about signage for this. Now that we haven't quite got it yet, but now that we're going to get another washroom in the downtown area, which is festival for everybody, we just need to make sure that they know where they are. So can we get some signage to make sure that people know where to go to when they need to go? Yeah. And make it, if we can have Heritage chip in with the somehow on the signage, that would be great too, but I'll leave it up to Mr. CAO to answer that question. Thank you.
Mr. CAO.
Madam Mayor, we will work with staff to ensure that we have adequate signage for people to be aware of where the opportunity is.
Thank you.
I have one more subsequent, if I may, Madam Mayor.
Please go ahead.
Can we move this washroom date up? Is that possible? Because I think we're looking at June, but if the weather turns, and it looks like it's going to slowly turn, but hopefully we'll get there by, you know, the May long weekend, can we have the washroom up and going by the May long weekend so people don't have to look elsewhere?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we will, in discussions with the SCA, they can be ready when the province loosens the restrictions on in-store shopping and the travel restrictions. So yes, if the province loses restrictions, they can be ready. The dates you're talking about are Friday evening dates that start in the summer or mid-June and go until September, and that's when the business is also open up.
So there's nothing in the motion itself that says a date, and the restrictions at this point look like it could be May 20th. So we'll just, as soon as that could be ready at that time, I guess would be when we start. Would that be correct, Mr. CAO?
That's correct. That's why we didn't, because of the uncertainty, we didn't put a specific date down.
Okay,
but
thank you.
It is as soon as we can.
Oh, thank you very much. Councillor Brown, anything further? Does that satisfy you?
It does, thank you.
That's good, thank you. Councillor Kiesebrink?
I'm good, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. And I see no further questions. Can we call the vote, please?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. That is carried with one opposed. So thank you very much. And we will move on to 10.2.2, which is the Port Perry Sesquicentennial event. And Councillor Watton has pulled this. Councillor Watton, you have a comment, I'm sure, since you're heading up this committee. And I'll call on the CAO as well.
Actually, Madam Mayor, I just am hoping that this can get supported. We have many plans. I respect the fact that it's a larger request than initially what I thought, but our hope is that it will all be on a cost recovery basis. With respect to the funding for the merchandise and so on and so forth, it is anticipated that it is anticipated that the costs would be recovered. There is discussion that recovery of those costs, any profit would be directed to something like the CT scanner. In discussion with the BIA and the Chamber with respect to whether merchandise is a good idea, both Marina Brock and Julie Brock, who was a longtime member of the BIA, said that often there are many requests for Port Perry merchandise. And respecting that, this isn't going to, the plan isn't to draw lots of crowds. It is still expected that there will be the events that are being planned, that they will be participants from not only Port Perry, but outside of the community, even if it is in smaller groups. We do have a car rally planned with an anticipated potential so far of people saying they're interested of over 200 people. So we're trying to work out the logistics on that, but also with moving some of the merchandise goods and so on and so forth. We have a design lapel, a silver lapel pin that we've asked Dana to design for the event, and we hope to be able to sell that as well. The design isn't going to specifically say June 9th, 2021. The goal is to have it a little bit more generic. It may say Port Perry growing together since 1971. So it's to be available. The merchandise is planned to be available all through the summer, sold through any retailers who are interested. There have been a few. The Chamber has indicated they would like to, as well as we're going to increase the costs so that we aren't overly stocked. So I know there is some concerns with council, and I respect those concerns. And this whole thing for me, the Port Perry 150, the entire planning and everything of it is a bit of a gamble, because who knows where we'll be in June, July, or August. If we're still at a stay-at-home, then all these plans will be for naught. But we have to move forward with hope and energy, and that's what my committee is doing, and we do hope that this council will support that budget. We made it as lean as possible. Thank you, Madam Mayor. If there's any further questions, I'll be happy to try and address them.
Okay, thank you. Do you wish to make the motion, Councillor Watton?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Kiesebrink, will you second it?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. CAO, is there anything you'd like to say on this report?
No, Madam Mayor. Councillor Watton said it well.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Guido, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. through you to either Mr. CAO or Councillor Watton, understanding that all of our local businesses have been impacted throughout the COVID pandemic, how will the committee choose which local vendors will be providing the merchandise for this celebration, including the disbursement of the $10,000 for advertising, signs, banners, flags, etc.? How will we fairly choose which business we're going to support to use this budget on?
Councillor Watton.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So first off, Councillor Guido, with respect to the banners and the flags, that is for the entire downtown, and it has been in conversation with the BIA as well as along Water Street. So that's a huge part of the request. The goal is to use the tagline "Growing Together" since 1871. So it's not a temporary banner per se. It can fly all summer. It could fly next summer as well when the banners go up. So it is in that respect, that is what the plan is for that. For choosing what retailers, quite frankly, any retailer could approach this committee and ask to have some of the supplies within their shop if they wished, and sell them. We certainly wouldn't choose one over another. The whole goal of this committee is to celebrate our businesses and to celebrate each other and recognize what the last year and a half has been. And we are trying to do as much as we can without cost for any of those businesses, recognizing that they have neither the time, the energy, or perhaps even the means to contribute to any big events at this time. So even in our 150 things to do to celebrate Port Perry, we are creating basically an ad, or a list, which will add whatever retailers have said they would like to participate, and they are all being approached. We have one person approaching our restaurants and one approaching our retailers to see if they would like to participate in some manner. So for example, if you wanted to go to Hank's Bakery, it could say something as simple: be sure to visit Hank's Bakery and try one of their apple fritters, so that it is not a cost to them, but they will get distribution in the souvenir booklet that is being put out with the coverage of 9,300 publication, or 9,300 whatever it's called.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Watton.
I can't even think.
That's all right. I'll make it brief and quick. That wasn't necessarily the question I was asking, but I appreciate that we were able to spend a little bit more time explaining how we're going to showcase all of our local businesses. More so, the question of how is the committee choosing which company will be producing the merchandise that we will be selling throughout the various businesses that are participating in town, and how are we choosing which companies will be doing the advertising and the other items that are included in the budget that the township is allocating?
Well, we're basing it, like, for example, the banners, we have had 3 or 4 quotes. So of course it will be the one that is the most reasonable, that can produce it in time for the event. For example, the merchandise, we are in the process so far. We will have 2 quotes for that, and again, it's what will be the best quality for what we're trying to do, and so on and so forth. As for the advertising and that, we haven't really, other than through Facebook, and
social
that we
media?
haven't talked social media. We haven't talked about print advertising, as in posters or anything like that. We haven't even contemplated that, to be quite honest.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Watton, and I'm sure all businesses in town would love to support this, so that's wonderful to hear. Other than that, I wish the committee all the luck in the world. I have seen a lot of the posts on Facebook about the car rally, and there's lots of interest in that, so that is wonderful. So thank you, Councillor Watton.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor, through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Watton, for taking this on. It certainly is exciting to celebrate 150th anniversary or 150th birthday. Just one thought actually on the Hank's fritters while we're on it. Perhaps it should be you should go in and try 150 Hank's fritters.
I like our residents to say healthy.
And then go on a 150-kilometer bike ride. I can help you with that.
We're working on that part too.
Yes, thank you. A question I do have is just for perhaps for some clarity for residents. Perhaps we could work with the Heritage Committee just to understand exactly what we're celebrating in terms of, because there's several numbers associated with Port Perry and either when it was settled or founded or incorporated. I think it's 1851, there's another one 1852, and then in 1871. So there's 3 dates, and certainly I would support, celebrating my 49th birthday many times, but I'm just, I'd like everybody to know, okay, we founded Port Perry in 1851, but it was finally incorporated in 1871, and that's what we're celebrating right now. I think that's the case, but I'm not sure.
And interesting you bring that up. We have discussed that, and we are working on putting out something to that effect.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor McDougall?
No, thank you very much. I am looking forward to my 150 fritters and my 150 kilometers.
Thanks. Well, they say that I hope there's cinnamon in those fritters, because they say cinnamon helps you lose weight. So if you're going to eat 150 of them, better have lots of cinnamon in them. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, just want to thank Councillor Watton for bringing this forward. It's nice to see something beyond just a virtual celebration. So good that we can do it safely and have people out and about. Just a couple questions. I had a discussion by email with Councillor Watton before, but just have a couple of concerns regarding the, I guess it's point 2, for the township to provide a cash flow advance for the purchase of the merchandise. Maybe just a couple answers if we have them right now. Have any other businesses been approached for the upfront cash?
No.
Okay.
And to that point is because we're trying to respect the fact that many of those businesses are struggling, was reason number one. And secondly, there's a couple of other things that we have in the works that we would like to approach businesses for.
Okay. And I guess the big thing is what is the payback plan, and what happens if the money, everybody obviously wishes the best and a great success for this, but given the uncertain times, what happens if the money just isn't there to pay back the township? What then?
Well, I'd have to defer that to our CAO. We did kind of have a brief what if. I'm on the optimistic side that hopefully all funds would be recovered, and as I mentioned, we will create some pre-order social media things so that we can try and get pre-orders, and we also are going to limit the runs of the items so that, rather than originally we talked about 500 of this and 500 of that, we're thinking conversation ended that it would be much smaller runs, yet make it, still worth doing without increasing the cost. So, for example, the lapel pin, we're getting a price for $250 versus $500. So we will know better the cost and what we can truthfully mark up for these items. But the fewer we order, the less markup we will be able to put on it to recover.
And
so I know that doesn't really answer your question, Councillor Ross, because I do not have an answer for if it's not recovered.
Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Watton said, they are hoping to make a profit and donate, but Councillor Ross is correct. It is a risk, and there may be a shortfall depending on the uptake and the cost of the product and the markup that the committee is proposing to put on the goods. The good news is that from when I asked Councillor Watton this question, and they felt that based on experience that people would want to buy the product. It's how much of the product they want to buy, and sounds like Councillor Watton and the committee is dealing with that right now. So, having said all that, the fact they're making a profit means they don't have to sell $1 for every dollar cost. And there's going to be a bit of flexibility, so there could be a bit of a shortfall at the end and still have it covered within their sales. In the event there is a shortfall, we'll have to look at the funding source at that time and look at how we are doing during the year as a municipality, and if we're doing well and have savings during the year, we'll be able to fund it through that. And if we are not doing well, we'd have to identify a revenue source, and I would suggest probably is the contingency reserve that we have set aside for COVID. That would be the source of funding. So realistically, it wouldn't be for the whole 15,000. It would be a much less amount than that because I'm assuming there would be some sales as we go through the year.
Further, Councillor Ross?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. The 15,000, where did that come from? Was that based on the original conversation of higher number of products, or is that based on the new shorter runs?
Councillor Watton? I'm just getting it, Madam Mayor. It was based on, let me see. It was based on 150 mugs, hats, 250 masks, and 250 lapel pins and t-shirts. I don't have the number down, but I think 150 t-shirts.
Okay, and those numbers came from
that was from a quote.
Sorry, but the numbers that the 150 mugs, 150 hats, that was the group decision based with the expertise within that group. Is that right?
For the quotes, like it was this much for 150, or it was this much for 250. A consideration of a markup and still keep it saleable.
Okay, and it's the committee's belief that those numbers will be sold, and it will be going beyond that.
It's our belief that they will be sold, but it's also to go below that. It didn't warrant. We eliminated the hoodies for that reason, to get a good price and make it within what the committee felt would be something that someone would pay. To go lower than 250 was probably not a good idea, and we just didn't want to add that on top of what we are already asking for.
Okay. That's great. Thanks for that. I guess just more of a comment. I guess my concern, as I said before, is that we wasn't that long ago we had the finance department gave a presentation that we have an uncertain year coming ahead and it's going to be tight on the budget. What implications? This is probably a question for the CAO. What implications would 15,000 fit within the budget, given that we have the uncertain year? We've asked department heads to cut back to meet our tax goal, and at the end of the day, council has to be okay. There's the big question. Council has to be okay with getting paid back somewhere between 0 and 100%, knowing that it is a risk, but it is not for certain.
Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. This is a one-time cost, so it wouldn't affect our tax rate next year. What it would affect is either our reserve balance or our surplus this year. So it wouldn't have a direct effect at all on the tax rate in 2022, if that's what you're asking.
No, not the tax rate, but just that understanding that a lot of our tax decisions go to making sure that the reserve funds are padded enough for future purchases, future dramas, or something like that. Would this have any impact on those reserves in a meaningful way?
So if I may, yes, actually, thanks for clarifying. It wouldn't have a meaningful impact because we received additional funds that we did not expect in order to deal with COVID. So we actually, when we set the rate and we went to our reserves analysis, we did not anticipate the additional monies that was coming from the province. So what it would do is it would affect those amounts. It wouldn't have a significant impact on any of our reserves at all. And this year we've, the fact that we put off ice during the summer or during the spring had a significant impact on our costs too, cost savings on our costs. So I think we would be in reasonable shape to be able to deal with that in 2021.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Please don't take my questioning to be, against the event. I just want to make sure we've got the financial side of things sorted. So thank you very much for your answers.
Fair enough. Thank you, Councillor Ross. Now I have Councillor Watton. Is your hand still up from before?
No, I was just going to make one additional comment, if I may, Madam Mayor, that certainly, and it was to Councillor Ross as well as to the fellow councillors, I certainly, please don't disregard that I do take this whole thing very seriously, and especially the fact of the monies that would be considered a loan. And you can rest assured that we will, as a committee, do everything in our power to ensure that to try and ensure that we do not owe, or that there is a shortfall to the township. Having said that, again, to all the councillors, any feedback, suggestions, input is greatly valued and welcome, so please contact me. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Or help.
Oh yeah, that too.
Councillor McDougall, is your hand still up from before, or do you have another question?
I did just put my hand up right now. Would this celebration be coupled with the Canada Day celebration, and could the budgets be coupled together for that?
To your question, Councillor McDougall, some of it will be. We are talking with the Canada Day folks from the township, and we are combining some of the events to be included together, as well as potentially some of the funds.
Through you, Madam Mayor, of course. Thank you. And yes, dependent on our current situation with the pandemic as that date approaches, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I don't see any further questions. I think I did get a mover and a seconder, did I not? Mrs. Fry?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, to the motion then, please.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And again, Councillor Watton, thank you very much, and your committee. You've got a very energetic committee and a very energetic leader. So thank you very much for all that you're all doing. And now we will move to, okay, we will now move to 10.2.5, the capital account 1917 funding source change. Councillor Brown has pulled this. Do you wish to make the motion, Councillor Brown?
Well, I can make the motion, Madam Mayor, but actually what happened, and I could be mistaken, was these numbers were was what I was presented with on Friday. The numbers have changed. Actually, it would be 10.2.6 and 10.2.7 that I asked to have pulled. They've actually moved by one number because something was added either today or on the weekend. So when I asked for my polls, that's what I was referring to. So. Oh,
okay. So 10.2.7 you want pulled as well, and it's been pulled already, but you wanted to speak to that, right?
Yes, I did.
The motor grader. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I've got a mover and a seconder. Do I have a seconder? Not yet. Please, somebody second the motion. Can't say Guido. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, we can call the vote on that, please.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Voting is closed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That's carried unanimously. So 10.2.6, Councillor Brown, you wanted that one, the half-ton pickup?
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I got an answer already. So if in the interest of expediency, I will move it, but I don't really need to ask my question.
Okay, thank you very much. A seconder, please. Councillor McDougall. Any questions or comments? Councillor Kiesebrink? No? Okay, all those in favor, please.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried. Thank you very much. 10.2.7, motor grader contract award, and that has been pulled by Councillor Kiesebrink and Councillor Brown. Are you moving and seconding that, Councillor Kiesebrink?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Brown seconding it?
And I will second it, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Kiesebrink, your question?
My questions were answered through some emails. So in the interest of time, I'll pass. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown?
I'll do the same.
Okay, thank you. I did have a question answered as well, that you removed the mounted scarifiers, but I understand that we've got another couple of motor graders within the township, and at least one of those has a scarifier on it, and it's not used extensively, certainly not used every time. Councillor McDougall, you have a question?
I do have a question. Is Mr. Frasca present still?
I am here.
Frasca? There you go. Please ask your question.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just with regards to our graders, how many do we have in the municipality?
To you, Madam Mayor, through the councillor, we have 3 motor graders right now.
And are all 3 motor graders used extensively?
They are used for both summer activities, spring summer activities, and winter activities, so all through the year.
And there's no possibility that we could possibly get away with 2 graders? Through you,
2 graders, not if we are doing the re-graveling, resurfacing. So if we are doing our own gravel resurface, 3 graders would be required. A lot of municipalities farm out or contract their regrading and choose to only regrade the roads and plow with combination trucks. That could be a possibility in the future if we ever go that way, but by using our own resources to re-gravel instead of contracting out, there is a huge savings component in that.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much, Mr. Frasca.
Thank you. This item was included in our capital budget passed in November, I guess it was, wasn't it? So, okay, no further questions. Can you call the question, please? Call vote.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to correspondence now, 10.3.1. Councillor Kiesebrink, you pulled this. Do you move the motion? Or do you have a motion on this?
It's to endorse the correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions?
Yes. Federal Bill C-45 has precipitated municipal challenges that we're still endeavoring to overcome in Skugog. Law enforcement are struggling with illegal storefronts, illegal online stores, illicit grow-ops run by criminal organizations, such that OPP made a video that was launched January 8th to explain the challenges that they're encountering. For example, sites that are authorized for, say, 1,600 plants could have in excess of 20,000 plants. What is startling is that they're finding large volumes of cash laying around. It's because these are often large-scale criminal networks that are using cannabis to fund human trafficking, synthetic drug trade, and other arms of criminality. So the loopholes in Bill C-45 have caused whole communities to struggle with health and safety issues, such that Health Canada currently has a cannabis consultation that's still open right now until May 7th. So now is the time to let the province know that these gaps in regulating the production, distribution, sale, importation, exportation, and possession of cannabis. Police need to be given lawful authority to lay charges when the sites are growing in excess of their licenses, and municipal governments need a communication channel and a way to deal with land use complaints related to cannabis production and processing. So with that, Madam Mayor, I would like to endorse this resolution that has been made by our neighbor, Brock Township, regarding cannabis licensing and enforcement, and it was further supported by Fort Erie. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for this? If I could second it, I would, but I'm looking for Councillor Watton. Thank you. Yes, very, very important. We have huge issues in Durham region, so thank you for bringing this forward. Any questions or comments? Councillor Watton?
No, it was just from seconding of that, Madam Mayor.
Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor to endorse?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 10.3.2, Councillor Kiesebrink. This is correspondence from the Township of Clarington regarding supporting hair service establishments remaining open Durham COVID shutdown, and Councillor Guido has declared a conflict on this. Councillor Kiesebrink.
Madam Mayor, if I could, for 10.3.3 and 10.3.4, if I could just make a motion that the correspondence be received, but that it be referred to the May 31st council meeting for consideration after the current provincial lockdowns transpire, just so that the motions could have the maximum impact.
Okay, thank you. Is that 10.3.2, 0.3, and 0.4?
Correct.
3 places. Okay,
correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to refer it to the May 31st meeting. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Watton, are you seconding it?
I am, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, there's no debate on a motion other than time and place. Is that correct? Motion to defer?
To refer, there can be. If it was tabled, there cannot be.
Okay. So you're referring it. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously with Councillor Guido declaring her interest in this. Thank you very much, and we'll move to 10.3.5. This is correspondence received from the town of Ajax regarding removal of the 412 and 418 tolls. Councillor Brown, your motion, please. You've pulled this.
Yes. Well, it was an election issue in 2018, but they haven't really moved anywhere with it. Obviously, if you live up here and you commute at all, then 412 and 418, it's very important that you get to work if you're working in Toronto or someplace even in the east end of the GTA. This would allow, if they remove the tolls, this would allow, I think, greater passage with vehicles and more traffic where they should be on the major highways and less congestion elsewhere. So that's one reason why I like it. The other one is, you know, they built a highway in British Columbia from the Okanagan Valley to Vancouver almost, called the Coquihalla Highway. And when they built that highway, they put tolls on. So it cost $10 to drive it. And it was a beautiful highway and well maintained. But the province made a promise that they would, as soon as the tolls earned what it cost to build the roads and with a little bit of reserve for maintaining, they would take the tolls away. So it doesn't cost anything to drive that highway now. And this one particularly affects Port Perry, and I would like to see the tolls removed. So I'm just endorsing what Ajax is suggesting, which is let's get on it and let's get those tolls removed, because I think it would benefit almost everyone who lives up here and obviously in Ajax and other areas close by too.
Yes, they have frozen them at the time being, but it doesn't cut it for me either. You know, the connecting 400 series on the west of Toronto do not have tolls, and it is simply not fair. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Kiesebrink, are you seconding this motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I just had a comment as well.
Okay, please go ahead.
Oshawa MPP Jennifer French, she had a bill to get rid of the tolls on the two north and south highways. It passed a second reading by a wide margin, 54-2, but the bill is in the committee stage to examine feasibility, and then it will come back to legislature. So I think Councillor Brown is correct to keep the pressure on. To your point, Madam Mayor, April 15th, they did announce the rates would be frozen and not increased until May 2023, but that's still not good enough. No. I agree with Councillor Brown. This should be ended. The tolls should be ended. Thank you.
Yeah, time to keep a promise. So thank you. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question to Councillor Brown or any staff member that can answer it. You spoke about the Coquihalla and the fact that they removed the fees, the tolls once it had paid for itself. Do we know if the said highways here have reached that threshold yet, or is there still money owed on them?
Well, for my part, I don't have an answer on that, Angus. I'm not sure.
Okay. My only concern is that if they're not paid for yet, then right now it's a user fee, which relieves the tax burden. But if it's removed before they're paid for, then it comes back to the tax base. So, anyways, an interesting question that I'd like to know before I endorse it. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions. Can we call the vote, please?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. 10.3.6, Councillor Kiesebrink. This is Town of Ajax regarding Stop Asian Hate.
Yes,
Councillor
Madam
Kiesebrink, you're making the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ross, is your hand up for that or from before?
Nope, for this for seconding. Thank you.
You'll second it? Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Kiesebrink, go ahead.
Yes, April 24th, Global News reported in a shocking video surveillance captured that Asian seniors are being assaulted and shoved to the ground unprovoked in broad daylight. Unfortunately, 84-year-old Thai man Visha did not survive when he was attacked on his morning walk. Since the pandemic, there's been a significant rise in anti-Asian hate crimes with misdirected frustration at COVID-19 being leveled at our Asian community. In fact, Vancouver has the highest number of anti-Asian incidents per capita in North America. But even locally, like at the University of Toronto, their incidents of Asian discrimination have tripled in 2021, including people being coughed or spat on or worse, assaulted. So I would like to join Ajax and support our Durham municipality in supporting this motion to stop Asian hate.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Yes, I'm certainly happy that we can support that. And I'll ask for the vote, please.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, and that's carried unanimously, and so it should. That's a very sad situation. Thank you for bringing that forward for endorsement, Councillor Kiesebrink. And we now move to 10.3.7. I actually asked for that to be pulled, and the motion is that the Township of Skugog supports the 2021 census and encourages all residents to complete their census online. And www.census.gc.ca. They're looking for accurate and complete consensus data and support the they're looking for us to support the programs and services that benefit our community. And do I have a seconder, or I need a mover, please? Councillor Watton, your hand is up. And do I have a seconder, please? Councillor McDougall, questions or comments? Councillor Watton?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. Just further to us supporting this, can it also be please put on our website and to encourage residents as well to answer it?
Yeah, that would certainly be our intention. And Director Bowers, would you like to comment on that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we can add that to our website. And I'll also instruct staff to look for social media around this initiative, and we'll share that as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can we call the question, please? I don't see any questions or comments.
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. The bylaws have already been passed. There's no items for separate discussions, no new business or general information. Confirming bylaw. Motion, please. Councillor Ross, seconder. Councillor Watton, questions or comments? All those in favor?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that's carried unanimously. Motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Guido, Councillor Ross. Can we call the question, please? All those in favor?
Open for voting, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
It's Councillor Guido. I was in favor. I couldn't see it come up. Thanks.
You got your vote. Thank you very much. That is carried. Thank you very much. It was a very busy meeting, a lot of business accomplished, and I want to thank staff. And thank you, Sandra, for your service to the council on our meetings. We will miss you. I know Laura will do a great job. Thank you very much, council, and enjoy what's left of your meeting. Good meeting. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Madam Mayor.
Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good night.